City on this Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned in to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. Let's kick it off. We got a whole show planned for you of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. It's a big week coming up. Tomorrow's State of the Union. Wednesday, Mayor Mikey called before Congress, along with a bunch of other sanctuary city mayors, to do some explaining, and we are going to be there to cover them.
Yes, Jeff's going to Washington. Okay, so I have to do this. Just stare out the window.
Right.
Yeah.
But we're going to be covering this, and we will be live in the room Wednesday for the hearing that Mike Johnston is going to be doing before Congress. And this is the Congressional Oversight Committee run by James Comer, and James Comer's office providing us a media pass so we can be there to see it. The look on his face when he has to testify.
Yeah, that would be good.
I think he wants to fight.
Oh, I think so too. I think so. I think he's, for me, I think there's about 40% of trying to defend Denver's sanctuary city policy. I think the other 60% is him using this to enhance his national standing. Yeah.
That is perfect analysis, Bill.
Yeah,
that
thanks.
is exactly right. Exactly
Yeah,
right.
he wants to know, because he's seeing something like, he sees Polis get on Fox News all the time. He's like,
right.
how come I can't get myself some of that MSNBC cheddar? How come I can't?
Jason Crow's out there all the time.
Exactly. That's what he's doing. He's trying to elevate that to make sure that he gets those phone calls. That's what's happening.
And speaking of Jason Crow, on Friday after the show, I went to a U.S. Global Leadership Coalition, which I happen to be a member of, and I'm changing my positions on this. So I used to be big into, spending with State Department, U.S. Foreign Affairs spending, all that. The importance of America being a force for good in the world. I was all in on that stuff.
And now we need to be a force for evil. Sorry. I couldn't help it.
Now I'm just like, gosh, just spend it at home. We've got so many problems here. Why do we need to be spending it? But I'm still on their email list. So I go. And I listen, and I think I can contribute to the conversation still, so I still show up. And Jason Crow gave a speech at this, and he he walks down off the stage, and I was front and center. I mean, like, there was nobody between us.
Good job.
So he walks down the stage, and I go up there, and one person gets in front of me that was right next to me. One person gets in front of me, shakes his hand. He looks at me and departs the entire venue.
Oh, that's fantastic. He pulls on Monty Python. Run away! Run away!
Not Six, his little handler on me.
Yeah.
Jeff, I'll get you. You know what? We'll figure out a time. We'll make it happen. Get on the stage, because we've invited him to come on to our show.
Oh, yeah.
And come here and get on the show. Sit right there, and we'll have a conversation. And it'll be a friendly conversation. I'm not gonna pelch you or anything like that.
Yeah.
We'll be fine, and Bill would probably agree with you on some stuff, challenge you as well. So it's not going to be a hostile environment. Anyway, so I walk up, and he sees me, and he looks at me and goes, "Thanks, everybody," and walks right into the back, and then right to his car, because I then, Bill, walked out to see if I could meet him in the parking lot.
Oh, good.
Dude went right to the car and sped away.
Oh, jeez. Okay, now, I have not vetted this morning, and so the video is not going to get this because there are copyright issues. But oh wait, no, I've got the audio up. Never mind, I can't do it. I was going to try to play something off the computer, but I can't. I didn't plan far enough ahead, so we're not going to do that this morning.
Little Monty Python.
Yeah, Brave Sir Robin. Remember that from Holy Grail? Brave Sir Robin, he ran away. He runs away from the three-headed knights, and so then his squire is following him, singing the song about how he runs away, and he's like, "Stop it!" Yeah, yes, that's the song that he sings. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, he did the Brave Sir Robin thing. He ran away. Yes, exactly.
So, yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the Alinsky Oval Office. I want to get Bill's perspective, my perspective. We want to hear from you. What did you think about that glorious moment that took place in the Oval Office on Friday? That was the one time I so desperately wished I had a radio show the next morning because there was so much to talk about.
Yeah, there was.
We'll talk about that here. We've got Ryan Helfenbein. He's the executive director of Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University, joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. Brandy Bradley joining us in the 8 o'clock hour. And then you'll never guess how much money Mayor Mike Johnston is spending with a law firm in order to defend his sanctuary city policies.
Yeah, this is a good. I appreciate you bringing this question and this point up because this bit of an issue.
It's a lot of money.
And the other part I look at is, okay, we'll get to this later, but I have questions about how much legal advice you need going into a hearing like this.
Yep.
How much and what are you worried about? And what I'm curious about is how tenuous do you believe your stance to be? And so I think that can be proportional to how much you're spending on the lawyers. That if you think you're if you think you're going to get pinched, you're going to plop down the money.
A lot.
Yeah, on the right guys. So I think the money and who they chose tells us a lot, but we'll get to that later.
And the amount and exactly who they chose to defend them is fascinating. All of this, it's going to be a jam-packed, wild show. You're not going to want to miss it. Plus, I want to hear about the Oscars because I don't watch that baloney. And
I passively watched it. I was on my phone, and so it was in the background. I did it more to hear who won, a little bit of the speeches, and just see who was on stage and see some of that. Yeah, because I have seen like one, maybe of the movies too, so I don't have the perspective. And some of my kids have seen a lot of them, and so I wanted to see their reactions and things to some of it. And yeah, it was interesting, but we'll talk about it.
I have such disdain for those Hollywood folks. It doesn't matter to me at all. So, but let's get to news with Blake.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good morning, Jeff and Billy. Happy Monday. 37 and cloudy in Denver, expecting a high of 62 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story is shooting early this morning in Fort Collins. Not a lot of information on that, including injuries, but the sheriff's department says the suspect is in custody.
And to guarantee the peace. Not every nation will feel able to contribute, but that can't mean that we sit back. Instead, those willing will intensify planning now with real urgency. The UK is prepared to back this with boots on the ground and planes in the air. Together with others, Europe must do the heavy lifting. But to support peace in our continent and to succeed, this effort must have strong US
backing, whatever. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer is a nut job.
Dude, good for UK if they want to step up. If Europe really feels that Russia is driving forward and is going to take over and they need to fight back and all that stuff, good. I mean,
Go ahead.
Blake, I saw yesterday,
corrupt.
I saw Kyle Clark has raised $75,000 for Girls Inc. because $75,000 was what the federal government cut that was going to Girls Inc. And I just sat there and
What's
went,
Girls Inc.?
I don't know, something, some.
How do we know?
Yeah, I don't know. But
How do we know it's going to girls?
But the point being, these guys are proving everything that conservatives are arguing.
Yeah.
That the federal government doesn't need to fund this stuff. Like if Ukraine's so important to defend and and Europe can step up, look what's happening. Europe is stepping up. If
It
girls
isn't. It isn't Europe stepping up, though, Jeff.
You don't think so? They just
no,
said they're
these
gonna
are
provide the planes.
globalists. Look, it's not Europe. I mean, the European people. I mean, it's the same thing that's going on here. It's not Europe versus Russia. It is globalist, leftist, communist freaks who want to destabilize everything and tear apart a sovereign nation like Russia. So it's not Europe to me, and this is my opinion. It's not Europe saying, "Oh, Russia, bad guy." Russia doesn't want war. NATO wants war. They're globalists. They surrounded Russia. They've been doing this for 2 decades. We know everything that's been going on. When you say the U.S. has turned their back on Russia and lied to them, they have. But it's not the people that you and I vote for. Generally speaking,
I see it a little differently. I do think that, Russia's an aggressor. Mm-hmm. I don't like Vladimir Putin, but
not very many people do. But in this case, he's not the one starting the war.
Yeah, I would disagree a little bit with you on this one.
He invaded Ukraine.
He did, and they surrounded Russia with nuclear weapons. It's been happening for 2 decades.
He wants the mineral rights in Ukraine.
Ukraine doesn't have any nukes.
Yeah, they do.
They don't.
They have bioweapons plants surrounding them.
No, they gave up their nukes in '94.
Okay, so you're sitting in Russia and you see all these nut jobs. NATO, EU, whatever.
NATO's not nut
NATO,
jobs.
we need to get out of NATO.
NATO's not a nut job. NATO's the most
really?
effective.
They're not?
No, NATO has been the most effective national security and foreign ally group in the history of the world so far. What they've been able to do is remarkable.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
No, they're not. They're on the far left.
No, it is the most successful international partnership ever that has ever happened. It has prevented. They do not want war. Russia invaded. Russia
they just
invaded
proved
Ukraine
it yesterday.
No, they didn't.
They're proving it every day.
Russia invaded Ukraine.
Russia invaded Ukraine because they had threats the past 2 decades from NATO, EU, and the left.
Threats for what?
The left. Nuclear weapons.
No, but there aren't any nuclear weapons there. Nor, and the bio things, again, we're not going to go down that road at this point. But
you don't think they're there? There's no. What did Victoria Nuland said? They're
no. I don't think they're not represented the right way. But that's beside the point. Again, the fact is, Russia already had NATO people on their doorstep, and we're going to acquiesce to what Vladimir Putin. That you're telling me the party of Reagan is going to say, "Oh, what does Putin think?" Really? No, not at all. No, and Russia invaded. No, Russia invaded. And here's the idea. I understand the idea.
I don't think
Russia invaded.
I think it's kind of in the middle of all this. Okay, I think Russia felt intimidated, and rightfully so, by some of the NATO activities. So I don't hold NATO completely blameless in all this. But the idea that Russia was just this kind of fine little independent country that didn't want to invade or act aggressive towards Ukraine, I think is wrong too. So, in the midst of, I want to go back to the point. If Europe really feels, this is why I think Donald Trump is brilliant. Okay, he has shown that if Europe really feels that this is a major thing worth defending, they're stepping up to do it. Same thing with all the federal government cuts. If we believe that these are really important, that we want to get behind and support, we can do so. With charities, with corporations can do it. It's not the federal government's job to do it all the time. Kyle Clark proved that over the weekend when he raised $75,000 for Girls Inc. And now we're seeing it with Ukraine, with Europe stepping up. Donald Trump is getting these wins, and he's right on all this. That's how I see it.
No, I agree. I just see it like this. I mean, these leaders in Western Europe, they're the ones showing that they're communists. Basically, they're taking away free speech, if they even had any free speech. They're what Eastern Europe was 3 decades ago. Okay, now Eastern Europe is in a Renaissance period, generally speaking, and Western Europe are these freak shows, these nut jobs who are dictators. They want to take away sovereign borders,
canceling elections, those types of things, right?
And they want to pit us in a war against Russia. For what? I don't want my kids
Yes.
fighting in a war over
Yes,
there.
100%.
And so here's what Great Britain wants. Here's what UK wants. They want to put boats on the ground and they want to go over. No, they don't. The British people want to fight. They got their own problems. They've
Dude,
been invaded by
like-
open borders also.
Have you seen these forced conscription
Yes.
videos?
Yes.
They're
horrific.
crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, if my
they want
boys
war.
if my boys were anywhere near that type of crap where like kids are like
Yeah.
riding their bikes and a bunch of dudes show up
Yes.
and throw them in the back of a truck.
Yeah. They're taking kids with Down syndrome or young people,
Yeah.
with and people who can't can't even take care of themselves. So what we disagree. People disagree on this, but this is the way it looks like to me. The left and Democrats want war. They make money off it, and the Western European leaders make money off it. They're in cahoots together with the EU and NATO, and they want to destroy borders, destroy cultures. We've already seen that in France and England.
I will tell you, in this kind of State Department USAID funding world that I was a part of, and I have
Right.
friends that are still a part of it, there is 100% a savior complex that exists there, where they believe that unless we do it, that unless we are there, unless America is making it happen,
Yeah. I
nobody
used to
else
feel that
can.
way.
Nobody else can, and it's
Yeah.
all going to fall apart. And do you know how many
Yeah.
little kids in Africa are going to die because
Mm-hmm.
we're not there? And I'm sitting there going, this isn't like 1960 where we just started USAID.
Right.
We're now 60 plus years into this experiment. If you're a country in Africa who can't take care of your own kids, you get way bigger problems than United States USAID funding.
Yeah,
you got,
I agree.
You got like really serious issues internally if your own country can't take care of your own kids.
Once again, so we heard this on Friday. Here was Zelensky, and prior to this, for 40 minutes they met, and Zelensky was saying this stuff.
Feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't know
God
that.
bless. You
Don't-
will not have
gotta-
a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that. Remember this.
I'm not
You're
dictating.
in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
You
We're
will-
going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel influence.
Okay, so he's telling me we're going to feel it. No, we're not. We're not getting involved in this. We don't want to be in your ridiculous war. You've had 3 years to try to end it and try to save lives, and you don't want to end it. You don't want to end it, and neither do the leaders from UK, not the people, the leaders, the dictators, the France of all places. So all these people, they're all in it. They're all in it, and they're
that
globalists.
that was short-sighted though. By
Zelensky? What did you think, Bill?
no, the idea of Zelensky's right. The fact
He's
that you're going
right?
to feel it. Yeah, he's right.
Really?
He's 110% right.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna and why?
What happens if Russia takes action against a NATO ally?
Well,
then-
hopefully we
yeah,
won't
that-
be part of NATO.
Which is
Because-
shocking and
because they're
scary in and of
trying to-
itself. But the
No,
idea
it
is
isn't scary
Yeah,
at
it is.
all,
Oh, it's
because-
completely scary because
No.
no. And NATO has been very effective, but that's really weird because it is the Eastern European countries. It is things like Xi Jinping. It is places like Russia, North Korea that are not that don't want part of that as far as NATO. And so the idea that you would that we would turn our back on them is scary. But what happens if Russia invades a NATO country?
But they
Based on the
haven't
treaty,
yet. They
I know.
haven't yet. But
I
when
know,
they
but
do, NATO
I know,
will
but-
respond.
I know, but what he's saying is the influence. If Russia takes action against a NATO country, we are bound to defend them based on the
Our treaty. Yeah.
Yes. So that would mean American boots and American
Yes.
soldiers getting involved. When Zelensky says you will feel the influence, that's it.
Right. So
That's it right there.
So why don't we get out of NATO so we don't? What is it? The fifth or what is it? The treaty, as you said. So we're required if anyone dies.
Yes. No, if anyone attacks
we've
a NATO
gotta get-
ally.
Well, guess what? We told them we don't want a war. We want to end the war. That's it. End it. Negotiate. Figure it out. Because we don't want any part of it. I mean, I don't. Do you? Do you want American
I do not,
boots
no.
on the ground?
Here's the idea. The thing is, you're coming to a false conclusion, in my opinion. Okay. Right now, I do not want Russia to be able to take the land of another sovereign country. I think that's wrong, and I find it shocking that members of not just America but of the GOP, the party of Reagan, would say it's okay that the leader of Russia can take land from other sovereign countries.
I think that's a false conclusion right there.
No, it's not.
I don't think okay is the right word to use.
No. We want to end it, and we're not talking about fighting. We're not talking about defending the country, and we've already, Pete Hegseth has already said they can keep the land. So we're already giving it away. And Russia has given back nothing.
To negotiate peace
and
to avoid
nothing.
World War III.
But to avoid World War III, why?
Yes.
Who's responsible for World War III?
Well, I think NATO and the EU are.
Yeah, I know. And that's where you're wrong. And here's why.
Okay, well,
and let me explain it. Let me explain it really quickly. No, let me explain it really quickly. Okay. If Russia stops fighting, what happens? The war ends.
The war ends.
If Ukraine stops fighting, what happens? Ukraine ends. So this
possibly.
is not no. Ukraine stops fighting, Russia takes over the country. This is not about Ukraine or NATO starting World War III. Russia is the aggressor. If Russia stops fighting, this war ends. The whole thing about Trump turning to Zelensky and saying you're gambling with World War III is 180 degrees away from reality.
No, it's
yes,
not.
It is.
Not enough.
No,
and
because
I'll tell
Russia,
you why.
Good, please.
Okay.
I'll give you the floor.
So here's Jason Crow on Friday.
I'm completely shocked what we just saw come out of the White House today as President Trump and Vice President Vance literally attacked one of our closest allies and friends.
Okay. That's not what happened at all. Okay, here's what I saw. All right? What Zelensky wants is not justice, not even a return to the original borders, anything like that. He wants revenge. He wants a pound of flesh for what Putin has done, okay? And I don't necessarily disagree with the idea that Putin's been the aggressor. I agree with you, Bill, on this, okay? If I have to give up 25 square miles or whatever it is of Ukraine, and I don't like it because I think Putin has been the aggressor here, but that somehow solidifies some peace and avoids World War III, I don't like it. But sometimes you got to negotiate peace. You got to give up stuff like that. Okay? What I saw out of Zelensky was I want retribution. I want my pound of flesh. I want revenge. You can't have a guy at the table negotiating that when you're trying to get peace.
Which is weird, given that one of the appeals of Donald Trump was the revenge that he was going to take on the Democrats and everybody else. It's weird to hear that coming from people that are now supporting Trump.
In this case,
I know.
Trying to get
revenge
peace
is only,
and avoid
revenge is only
World
good in,
War III.
I know. Revenge is conditional.
Right.
But what you didn't deal with in that idea was my premise about World War III.
Yeah.
Russia is the aggressor.
I agree.
If Russia stops fighting, there is no war. If Ukraine stops fighting, there is no Ukraine. Mm-hmm. If there is one side that will push this to World War III, it is the side that, if they continue to fight, continues the war, and that is Russia.
Yes.
Russia is the one. So
Bill, I don't
again,
disagree with you
I
on
know
that.
shows that Trump was 180 degrees wrong about what he said.
I don't want World War III. And if I have to negotiate and give up 25 square miles of some border in order to avoid it, I don't like it.
Yeah, but you're giving
I'm not sending my sons to go fight that war. All right? And so this Russia's the aggressor. Russia's the aggressor. We got to make them pay.
How much?
We got to make them pay. And we're willing to go to what length in order to do so? That's the question.
Okay, I got a question. You're willing to give up territory in another country. How much U.S. territory are you willing to give up?
It's not
to
the
avoid?
U.S. That's a false. It's a false.
No, I'm
equivalency.
wondering how much because I'm wondering
zero.
Okay,
Zero.
But why then do you not hold Zelensky to the same bromide?
Why do you not America?
But hang on a sec. I
and
know,
it
but
sucks.
I know.
I'm sorry, Ukraine.
I know. This is
you
the
got
idea,
a crappy
though.
neighbor,
I know. Here's
but
the
I'm
idea.
not sending my sons to war.
They've been involved
I understand
in a lot of corruption as well.
I understand that, but the issue is this: we are willing to give away the sovereignty and land of another nation because it doesn't affect us. That's what our conversation just had right there. That is
Correct.
exactly
That's what Trump said.
Nope, that is exactly what Zelensky said. that you don't feel it right now, but you will eventually. That's what Zelensky said. And Trump was 180 degrees wrong about World War III.
He was threatening. He wasn't saying,
no,
look,
he
friends.
wasn't. No, he
wasn't
you can feel it
opening up
eventually.
his arms
Nope.
and saying, guys,
No.
look, you're going to regret this, okay? Ukrainian people, we love you, America. We appreciate you, but you're going to regret this because it's going to come back. He wasn't saying that. He was making a threat.
No, he said you can
bowing
eventually
up,
do it.
He was bowing up and said, you're going to regret
he said you're
this.
eventually going to be able to feel this. And he's right because of NATO. He's right.
Well,
yes.
get out of NATO.
He's right.
I don't want to get into any
huge,
stupid war.
That's again a
So
huge
Bill,
problem.
Bill,
this is the party of Reagan walking away. This is the party. I mean, I never thought that I would see or hear a Republican president tear down the legacy of Reagan.
That's
and
not
that's
what
what
he's
we've
doing
done.
at all.
Yes, it is.
It's because we've lived through
what he's done.
Afghanistan, Iraq, Vietnam, and we're just exhausted.
Yeah. No, but the issue is
sending our sons to fight other people's battles.
The issue is NATO. Blake is talking about walking away from NATO, and you seem to be okay with it too, walking away from NATO.
I'm not.
That is the legacy of Reagan.
Totally naive
that's
to go
part
that
of the that's part of the legacy of Reagan.
I believe NATO is corrupt and
somehow
so
spur Russia to respond.
That's the legacy of Reagan. That's where I say that it's a Republican president tearing down the legacy of Reagan, because Reagan stood there after the Cold War and said we were going to stand by our allies in Europe, and now we're walking away.
Yeah, but we didn't stand by. We didn't
down.
stand by a promise we made to
down.
Russia, to Putin either. I mean, we didn't stand by two promises.
We also didn't stand by a promise that we made to Ukraine.
Well, so here's the deal. You want to end the fighting. You want to end the war. The stupid thing has been going on for 3 years.
Yes.
And there's an opportunity to end it. And it's, there's hundreds of thousands of lives, Russians and Ukrainians, and they're slaughtered, and it has to end. We don't want to be part of this. They want the thing to keep on going.
Who they?
I mean, NATO, EU.
No, they don't want
Western Europe.
They don't want
leaders,
Russia. They don't want Russia to be able to take
autocrats.
land of a sovereign nation. I don't see why that's a problem. That's okay.
It's not about the land.
Okay, fine.
It's about culture. It's about borders. It's about sovereignty of Russia. NATO has been surrounding Russia for 2 decades, and we've gone back on our promises. And I say we, and that means the corrupt American politicians who've been in there and laundering money in and out of Ukraine. I mean, it's as corrupt.
I think there's absolute corruption there. 100%.
Yeah, without proof so far, but that's okay. We can talk about that
What
later.
do you mean without proof? Zelensky said himself he can't account for some of the money.
Yeah, there's some in there, but the whole idea is, you're saying, well, it's just so corrupt that everything's corrupt. Yeah, okay, fine.
Zelensky's
I just said
dirty.
there was some corruption there. That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
Wow, we've got jam-packed phone lines.
I love it. Okay, I'll cut it in half here. Man, I love this show. I love it. Over 2,000 soldiers from Fort Carson, speaking of soldiers, will be deployed to the southern border as a part of DJT's immigration crackdown. Now, see, that's where I think they should go. That makes sense. Sovereign borders, protect our borders. The soldiers will assist logistic support, detection, monitoring, and administrative support, among other things. A threat was received by a Weld County family who lives in Severance last week. They received a note in their mailbox about their Make America Great banner. The letter said that their house might accidentally burn down if their banner stayed up. Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, who lives a few miles away in Windsor, told the family to fly their banner proudly, saying the First Amendment protects political views. And Governor Polis, hey, all right, give him credit here, agreed on his own social media post, saying no one should ever be intimidated into silence. Amen. All right, news brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patio, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. Celtics beat the Nuggets 110-103, 33 in Castle Pines, 34 in Lakewood, 37 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue on this Monday morning.
They think men can breastfeed. They're triggered by race. They cry if you use the wrong pronoun. And most fair-minded Americans look at this and they go, these people are about 10 exits past normal.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Trump fans throwdown that took place on Friday. A lot to talk about, jam-packed phone lines. So if you want to join the conversation as soon as the phone line is clear, dial in because I think a lot of people have thoughts on this. Let's go to Mark in Aurora. Good morning, Mark. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hi. I just wanted to say that the difference I see about Zelensky giving up land and us giving up land for peace is that Zelensky's fighting with our resources, and nobody's coming to the aid of the United States. And Russia's fighting with the resources of the Chinese, the Iranians, and North Koreans. And for Zelensky to come to the United States, to the Oval Office, and act like he's the boss of me or he owns me, I don't think so. That's the way I feel.
Now, Mark, tell me, what do you mean by you see Zelensky coming here and saying that he owns or being the boss? So what is it that he did? What were the actions that he did that made you feel that way? Help me understand.
I'm not sure if I was reading his words or his body language, but it to me came off as he thought that the United States owes him this, the resources for him to fight on forever to the last Ukrainian, and we don't.
Could I give you another interpretation about why he was prickly in that situation? That he is going to a meeting with a man and a vice president, the president and the vice president, who in the previous 7 days have said incorrectly that Zelensky started the war, who said in the previous 7 days that Zelensky is a dictator, that previous to that has questioned support for Ukraine and whether or not they're in the right, and has shown support for Ukraine's adversary. For me, I can understand why sitting in, and I don't think they should have done it open in the White House. I don't think that was the right place. It should have been done behind closed doors. But I can understand why Zelensky walks into that room and feels attacked, because in the previous 7 days, he's been accused of starting the war that he didn't, and he's been accused of being a dictator, which he isn't. So I can understand why he feels he is being positioned improperly by the current administration.
I guess I heard something. I've heard supporting arguments for saying why Zelensky started the war, and I don't particularly agree with those. But as far as supporting Trump supporting Putin or Russia, I don't see evidence for that anywhere, really. Do you see Donald Trump saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna provide Russia with javelins or even blankets." I don't see that.
What I see Trump doing is asking Putin and Russia what they want. He's giving in. Secretary Hegseth gave Putin all of the land before even a single negotiation. The question I've got is, other than putting down guns, what is Russia giving up? We don't even have a guarantee of security for the sovereignty of Ukraine in this so far. So far in this peace deal, Ukraine gives up their land, gives up portions of sovereignty, and Russia so far gives up nothing more than putting down their guns.
Wouldn't you say they're giving up total control of Ukraine?
No, because that would be something you have to acquiesce the fact that they would take over the entire country. So if
Right.
that's fine.
I mean, but if we stop fighting, like you said, they would just take over all of Ukraine. So if we negotiate a peace deal, there's still a Ukraine.
Yeah. Well, I think you're looking at a longer scope as opposed to what the president's looking at right now. I think we're seeing President Trump saying, "Look, step one is to stop the guns, to stop the bullets, and step two is going to have to be security." And at this point, what we're looking at is just to take this first baby step, and that's to stop the people from dying.
Well, let me go that direction.
And next is going to have to be some kind of security, and that probably gets locked in with the rare earth minerals.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing: is that's why, and we'll talk about this in a bit here, Mark. And I appreciate the phone call. That's why Zelensky's portion of the conversation before J.D. Vance jumped in and pushed him about saying thank you to Donald Trump is very important, because Zelensky is outlining the previous ceasefire that was signed in 2019 that Russia never honored. And Zelensky is asking, we had a ceasefire. We had a potential peace earlier in 2019. No one helped me enforce it. No one kept Russia from stop fighting. What are we going to do this time to prevent that from occurring? And J.D. Vance jumped in and got mad about not saying thank you to Donald Trump. But that's what Zelensky was asking.
Oh, I disagree on that.
No, but that's what he walked through.
That's how it happened. This thing was about to wrap up. Like, literally, it was like the last question. And then Zelensky decided to make this a public debate right then and there. He could have easily had that debate behind closed doors, allowed, if he really wanted to send a message to Russia, it would have been, look, the United States is with us. We're great. We're perfect. Then we'll go have those debates behind closed doors. It was Zelensky that pushed in that last question that the whole thing blew up. It was completely his fault from my perspective. Let's go to the phone lines. By the way, we got an open line. Quickly dial in 303-696-1971. Oh, Bill, we're way over break.
Yeah, let's take a break.
Okay,
let's come back.
Tony, you'll be up next. We are way over break. We're going to continue the conversation. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Only 8,326 illegal migrants were apprehended by Border Patrol last month, representing a 96% drop from illegal crossings during the Biden administration, when highs in December of 2023 were at more than 301,000 encounters. To put things into perspective, during the Biden-Harris administration, 8,000 to 10,000 migrants would cross in a single day, with a high of 11,000 illegal migrants crossing in December of 2023. Trump saying on social media that this means very few people came. The invasion of our country is over, he said. In comparison, under Joe Biden, there were 300,000 illegal crossings in 1 month, and virtually all of them were released into our country. Thanks to the Trump administration policies, the border is closed to all illegal migrants. President Donald Trump essentially closing the border with executive orders issued when he took office, including declaring the southern border a national emergency, reenacting the Remain in Mexico policy, and putting an end to welfare benefits for illegals. The Department of Education is offering its employees up to $25,000 if they quit, retire, or resign by today, according to an internal memo. The offer comes as President Donald Trump has directed all federal agency heads to drastically reduce the size of their workforce. The voluntary separation incentive payment is a one-time offer/payment to those who accept it before the department starts reducing the size of its workforce on March 31st. Education Department employees received an email offering the buyouts ahead of the, quote, very significant layoffs. The email urged workers to consider the one-time offer of up to that $25,000 if they completed an application to retire or resign by today. And the latest developments on Pope Francis, as the Vatican says the Pope has remained in stable condition and didn't need any mechanical ventilation over the weekend. It's a sign that his respiratory function was improving as he continues his recovery from double pneumonia and respiratory crisis. The 88-year-old Pope continues to receive high-flow supplemental oxygen after Friday's coughing episode, which sparked fears of a new infection. Doctors again said his prognosis remained guarded, meaning he isn't out of danger just yet. Francis, who had a visit from the Vatican No. 2 and 3 official, also attended Mass, rested, and prayed, the Vatican said in its bulletin. Crowds of people lined the streets over the weekend near a Vermont ski resort protesting Vice President J.D. Vance the day after an Oval Office blowout over Ukraine. Vance was in the area to vacation with his family.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Awayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Let's go back to the phone lines because they are hot today. Tons of calls and text messages on the Friday Zelensky, Trump, Vance throwdown in the White House. By the way, Bill and I talking about John Cena, so we're all in the wrestling mood today.
Oh, yeah. John Cena turned heel over the weekend. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was so cool. I mean, and Pete Boyle's can geek out about why it's such a big deal, but this is one of the longtime guys like Hulk Hogan. This is the longtime face. Guy's been a baby face, cheered by the kids for years and years and years, and he went bad guy this weekend. It was so cool.
Let's go, really Tony Littleton. Good morning, Tony. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Hey, good morning. I actually can't believe I'm hearing what you guys are saying. A problem we have with Trump at the moment is he's not telling the truth at every turn, right? I mean, Macron had to correct him at a press conference. He sat in that room and again said, we've given them $350 billion. Everybody in the world knows that's a lie. And it's Trump saying, run away from World War III. There's nobody out there that's even has a model that would lead to World War III other than us appeasing Putin. And I'm gonna let Billy try to handle the history and the facts with you guys. But the globe right now, Western allies from Japan to Europe to Canada, it looks like we're appeasing Putin. And if there's a demonstration of that, I don't know if you heard Speaker Johnson's statement after that. He came out and he ripped Putin for being a dangerous madman. I think right now he wants to get on the right side of history because he realizes this is taking a really ugly turn.
If Putin is a dangerous madman, don't you think we could end up in World War III?
No. In fact, you start laying out a model. You lay out a model for how we go to World War III. How's that happen? What are those chess moves that lead to World War III?
Because the dangerous madman has nukes.
Yeah, we have nukes. He's not going to use nukes because he doesn't want them used on him.
I feel like you're just laying out the exact argument for why we're going to end up in World War III.
No, that's not the case. This is a more involved conversation. But the most dangerous thing we can do is to walk away from NATO. NATO's never attacked anybody, and they've never attacked Russia, and they were not threatening Russia when Russia invaded. Russia invaded because they thought they could get away with it, and it was going to be a short war.
Tony,
they're not really afraid of NATO as much as they're afraid of the European Union. They don't like the idea of having democracies on their border. That's not their choice.
Tony, what is the penalty that Russia needs to pay in order for there to be peace in your mind?
Russia, right now, Ukraine would probably give them Crimea, cede Crimea to them, formally cede Crimea, if the United States would simply say, now we've backed, from there, it's over. Ukraine is now backed by NATO. They're backed by NATO. They're backed by the United States.
And the
Russia,
crazy
you get
man
Crimea.
with nukes is going to allow this to happen, you think?
Pardon me?
And the crazy man with nukes is going to allow this to happen.
He's not so crazy that he's going to use nuclear weapons and know that he's going to lose Moscow and 100 million people if he did. He's not going to use
Tony,
nuclear
I think
weapons.
That's exactly what Trump and Vance are afraid of happening, is that the madman with nukes is going to set off World War III, and we've got to negotiate it. Tony, I'm just out of time. We got You Choose the News coming up. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS. this morning, scouring the interwebs to find really dumb stories about us humans, giving them more ridiculous headlines to play this fake radio news game show. Why? Because nobody in charge has any idea we're this irresponsible with valuable airtime. They don't wake up for about another 5 minutes, so we got to be quick with this one, gentlemen. Remember, shh, it's a secret. Don't tell anybody. And Blake Olson joining us from the news department. Here we are, sirs, your headlines. Headline number 1, dead air. Headline number 2, match postponed, issue with the ball. Headline number 3, our newest hero. And headline number 4, it's going to be fire. Mr. Hunt.
Dead air.
Dead air. Qatar Airwaves is defending their actions recently because a couple of passengers that were going from Melbourne to Doha were a little bit upset based on the person they were seated next to. During the long 15-hour flight, one of the passengers passed away, and they placed the unalived passenger next to the couple, Mitchell Ring and Jennifer Collin. They spoke out about how uncomfortable it was. They just put a dead body next to him, put a blanket over the top, and they were super mad. And I don't know what the big deal is, because, I mean, person next to you, they're not going to talk.
Hey,
you can have their food,
no
and you get the
sneezing,
armrest.
coughing on you.
And you get the armrest. No arguing over who gets the armrest. To me, this is a bonus. I don't see what they're so mad
Billy
about.
would prefer to fly,
Yes.
actually.
I would prefer
in an
to fly
airplane
next to the
full of
person.
dead people.
Yes. So much better. Yes. If you can place me next to the dead person, I will pay extra. Just saying. All right. Blake Olson, your choice, sir. Match postponed, issue with the ball, our newest hero, or it's going to be fired.
Issue with the ball. I'm
Yes,
right there
issue with the
you.
ball. Oh, I'm so happy you picked this one. Here we are traveling to Germany. Recently, a lower-level German football clash had to be postponed because the referee got bitten in the testicle by a kid.
It's happened to me. It's happened to me.
What? There's so many stories there that we probably shouldn't cover it now. Now, here's the idea.
I'll tell you about it later.
It was that one time in college. One time at band camp. Okay. Now, the referee at one time, he was sitting there and he was doing the pre-match checking over everybody's equipment to making sure they had cleats on, shin guards, stuff like that. One of the players' kids was goofing around next to him. For whatever reason, this young toddler ran over to the referee and bit one of his testicles before the match. The referee was in so much pain, he's like, I can't continue. And so they've had to postpone the match. Yes, because a young child bit the referee on, so.
Been
yes.
there.
I know.
What? You got to explain that briefly.
Not right now. We don't have
my
time.
2-year-old, 2.5-year-old, I think he was 2.5, he did that to me. He's 15 now. I wasn't paying attention to him.
Oh, my gosh.
And I was wearing my basketball shorts, and I was going, what do you call it, Billy?
Commando?
Yeah, commando,
Yes.
thank you. And he went up there, blood everywhere.
Oh, my God.
No way. All right.
How do you put a Band-Aid on that? Okay, never mind. Okay, Jeff,
was
final
rough.
choice, sir. Our newest hero, or it's going to be fire?
Newest hero.
Our newest hero. Now, they have those long trailers and ads before the movies that you go and see. A man in India has recently successfully won damages from the country's largest movie theater because they ran too many previews before the movie. The guy had decided to see a movie one afternoon, and he knew he was going to be done by about 6:30 in the evening. He had set up business appointments afterwards. They ran so many previews, he was late to his appointments, and he sued for damages. And they gave him the damages.
I love
he won.
that idea.
Yes, one of us needs to file that suit this
I
week.
hate how many previews
It's ridiculous. But hey, if we can get it there, we should try. So
Yeah,
someone's got to sign
you
up.
can reserve your seats now. You don't have to get
it's so
there.
much better.
Gosh,
Yeah.
but those previews are
I know.
ridiculous.
That's
All
it.
right.
That's the end of your Tuesday news.
We got Ryan Helfenbein from Liberty University coming up, and your phone calls and texts all about Zelensky, Trump, and Vance. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is News Talk 710 KNUS.
On this Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights, hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations, you just woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. Let's kick it off. We've got an entire hour planned for you of engaging conversations, critical analysis, but most importantly, your phone calls and texts, because this is where Denver's voice is heard loud and clear. So grab a cup of coffee, Denver. Let's dive into the issues that matter most to you right here, right now. Coming up after news and comment with Blake Olson, Ryan Helfenbein's joining us. He's the executive director of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. This is the Christian conservative juggernaut at Liberty University, driving public policy out there, doing a great job. When my sons and daughters want to be trained for public policy engagement, political engagement, send them to Liberty University to hang out with Ryan Helfenbein in the Standing for Freedom Center there. I mean, just recently, I took thousands of kids to the March for Life in Washington, D.C., big busloads going up there. It was absolutely awesome to watch. You're not going to want to miss this conversation. We'll talk Andrew Tate, biblical masculinity, plus Zelensky, what happened in the Oval Office on Friday. It's going to be a great conversation, but let's spend some time first with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
All right, thanks a lot, Jeff and Billy. 36 and sunny in Denver, Monday morning. Expecting a high of 62 today. It's going to be beautiful before some snow tonight, probably south of Denver and in the mountains. The 710 5-day forecast is coming up. Our top story in northern Colorado, a shooting early this morning involving deputies in Fort Collins. Not a lot of information on that, including if there were any injuries, but the sheriff's department says that the suspect is in custody.
First, we will keep the military aid flowing and keep increasing the economic pressure on Russia to strengthen Ukraine now. Second, we agreed that any lasting peace must ensure Ukraine's sovereignty and security, and Ukraine must be at the table. Third, in the event of a peace deal, we will keep boosting Ukraine's own defensive capabilities.
This is UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who can't even hit a punching bag. You can see the video everywhere. A 98-year-old could hit a punching bag harder. A globalist, NATO, EU warmonger, and he wants to send, and he will, send boots on the ground to Ukraine, trying to rope the U.S. into war in Ukraine against the Russians.
Any future invasion. Fourth, we will go further to develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine.
The European Union / NATO using the Ukraine war to hold the West ransom, it looks like, and DJT is calling them on it. Once again, Friday, setting the little leftist dictator Zelensky straight.
Feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering all
position
these
to
questions.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what I'm not
You're
dictating.
in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very
you will
good.
Feel influenced.
We're going to feel very
I'm
good and
telling
very
you,
strong.
You will feel.
Elon and Senator Mike Lee and others say we need to pull out of NATO.
Can we get people to call in and do their best Zelensky impersonations? You're gonna you're gonna feel it. It sounded like a mob boss. You're gonna feel the influence.
He is one. No, he works with them. They're called NATO.
We need to give an award to the best Zelensky impersonator.
I love it. Let's do it, man. This hour, I think Billy would love that. Just flood the phone bank with Zelensky impersonators. Zelensky, he's been saying this for a long time. Here's the interpreter.
The U.S. will have to send their sons and daughters exactly the same way as we are sending their sons and daughters to war. And they will have to fight because it's NATO that we're talking about, and they will be dying.
Oh, my goodness. Zelensky, Starmer, they're all the bad guys. So is Putin, but he's willing to negotiate. Most Democrats don't understand that, but Zelensky, he even ticked off Biden last summer. You remember this? How do we know? Well, lefty NBC News told us.
President Zelensky continued to talk about the additional equipment and weapons and support that he and his military needed. According to these officials, they said that President Biden finally just got frustrated and lost his temper and told President Zelensky, look, you could be a little bit more grateful. The reason that this story is interesting to us and is something that we're reporting on and officials were speaking to us about is because it shows that all these months ago, President Biden already realized that there was going to be a point where the American people, members of Congress, where people would start potentially pushing back on all these billions and billions of dollars of aid and equipment that the U.S. has been providing to Ukraine. And he knew that the narrative out there needed to be that the Ukrainian people and President Zelensky were grateful for it if the support was going to continue at that same level, Kate.
Over 2,000 soldiers from Fort Carson will be deployed to the southern border as a part of DJT's immigration crackdown. The soldiers will assist with logistics support, detection, monitoring, and administrative support, among other things. Epstein files. Now Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI director, the liar, James Comey, has been obstructing evidence with the other corruptocrats in the Southern District FBI in New York. Should be more news in hopefully a few days. AG Pam Bondi.
Assured there's no more. I found out, this week that a source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information.
The Department of Education is offering a $25,000 buyout to employees who quit by today. Take it. Look for another job. Elon on Rogan over the weekend.
Why is the Democrat propaganda machine so fired up to destroy me? The main reason is that entitlements fraud, that includes like Social Security, disability, Medicaid, entitlements fraud for illegal aliens is what is serving as a gigantic magnetic force to pull people in from all around the world and keep them here. If you pay people at a standard of living that is above 90% of Earth, then you have a very powerful incentive for 90% of Earth to come here and to stay here. But if you end the illegal alien fraud, then you turn off that magnet and they leave. And if that happens, they will lose a massive number of Democratic voters.
Saturday, DJT signed an executive order making English the official language of the U.S. If you receive federal funding, you don't have to provide language assistance to non-English speakers. 3 years ago, looks like Biden sent millions of dollars of social security money to Ukraine. Amazing. Evidently, a lot of retirees from America moving to Ukraine. A man is dead after a Sunday morning crash in Aurora. Investigators say a Kia sedan was traveling east on Quincy when the driver lost control, hopped a curb, and hit a light pole. A male passenger was ejected from the vehicle and died from his injuries. News brought to you by Lair Fireplace and Patios, Denver's premier source for everything fireplace, patio, and grills, locally owned and operated since 1954, online at lairfireplacepatio.com. NBA last night, the Nuggets fall to the Celtics 110-103, 33 in Parker, 33 in Westminster, and 36 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
I've got a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they haven't asked me for advice, but if I did, I'd tell them, look, you just got to try harder not to suck.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Difference, like the tip of the spear. Survey the landscape. It's Monday morning, and I'm finally waking up. When I look at those that are really doing great work out there, driving forward an agenda for the sanctity of life, for liberty, for truth, Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University is doing it better than anybody else. They are the tip of the spear. And not only are they driving an agenda in the public square, they're training up the next generation of Christian conservatives. And joining us is the leader of Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University, Ryan Helfenbein. Ryan, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Jeff, hey, good morning, guys. All the way out in the Colorado Rockies. Jeff, thank you so much. The check is in the mail. I'm just kidding.
No.
Thanks for introducing me, friend.
Dude,
I appreciate you, brother.
I've been watching the impact you guys have been having. Liberty University is doing a great job. It's a lot of fun for kids to be able to go there. Great football, basketball programs. I mean, you guys are competing at some of the highest level in the sports realm. And then on the public policy side, you're driving very similar to what I ran at CCU for years, the Centennial Institute, but just at a whole nother level. It's exciting to see. Give folks a sense of what Standing for Freedom is doing at Liberty University.
Well, yeah, I mean, basically we stand for life, liberty, and truth to ensure the foundations of freedom exist for the next generation. So we're really concerned about the youngest generation. There's a lot of things positive that are happening right now, positive developments. You look at Pew Research, just came out with a study last week that the great degress or regress of Christianity in America has been halted. We're seeing faith on the rise. At the end of 2024, we saw that Bible sales were up by about 22% over the previous year. The youngest generation is looking for answers to tough questions about life. And so I think the great awakening is over. I think that it is time for a great awakening in America. Revival is coming, but it's not just coming spiritually. I think it's also coming politically as well. And we have to train up that next generation to take the mantle, to take the baton. Don't die with the baton in your hand. Pass it to that next generation. And so we need to inspire them how to be faithful Christian leaders in this great country that we've been given by God.
Talking with Ryan Helfenbein, he's the executive director of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. Ryan, I think a lot of Christians look at the political space and go, ick, give it to somebody else. This muddies the gospel. It weakens the gospel. We should separate the gospel of Jesus Christ from politics. What say you?
Yeah, I think the sacred-secular divide is a false dichotomy. I don't think Scripture presents that to us. I think that we see time and time and again examples in Scripture, whether it be Joseph or Daniel or Esther. There are numerous examples, even in the words of Jesus, numerous examples of how we must engage. Even at the last act in the book of Acts, where Paul goes before Agrippa and then on to Rome, he makes his appeal as a Roman citizen. There are numerous examples of this. The sacred secular divide is a false dichotomy. So when you go back to our founders, many of our founders, not all of them, but many were Christian men, and they absolutely took their faith public in order to ensure that we have the greatest freedoms historically that any country in the world has ever had. So we need to engage and not disengage.
Yeah, what I like to point out is that if you look at the breadth of church history, you're looking at well over 2,000 years since the birth of Christ. Okay, America's been around for about 250 of it. So about 90% of church history, Christians were stuck with whatever king, queen, Caesar, whatever it might be. And you get 1 Timothy 2, 1 through 4, which says, pray for those in positions of leadership, that they, kings, queens, and all those in authority, that they may come to know the truth, and that we may live in peaceful and godly lands. And that's because you didn't have much choice. You were just kind of stuck with whoever God established on the throne. The idea that Christians can be a part of a country that's of the people, by the people, and for the people is such a small sliver of church history, roughly around 10%, that you don't realize how good we have it to be able to live in a country that we can actually direct the laws. So you better engage. This is a gift given by God to us, that we better engage in the public policy realm. Now, tell us how Liberty University and how Standing for Freedom trains the next generation of Christian conservative.
I think one of the biggest things, Jeff, is that we're trying to get them engaged in civic discourse, trying to get them engaged as much as we can, as much as they're interested on frontline issues. And one of the biggest ones, you named it, is the March for Life. That is a huge, huge issue at the forefront of the minds of the youngest generation. I really do believe that they're pro-life in ways that previous generations were not. These arguments, they've grown up with it. They've grown up with divorce. They've grown up, hearing about abortion and even seeing 3D and 4D imaging of abortion. They know more about it than any previous generation did before. And so one of the things I'll say is that we offer an opportunity every year. We take about 1,000 students up to Washington, D.C. to take part in the largest organized march, the March for Life. Largely a Catholic enterprise, but there are many Protestant and evangelical groups that are taking part, and that continues to grow even after Roe v. Wade has been overturned. That's a big issue. We also hold other key events, symposiums and summits, distinguished lectures. Riley Gaines is actually going to be coming on campus next month to do a distinguished lecture for us at Liberty University. And then we're doing a leadership summit in April at the Museum of the Bible, Leadership in Action, where we're basically talking about that very thing you just said, the 250-year history of the United States, where we are when it comes to a Christian founding, a Christian republic, taking them back to history, but then also showing in the contemporary through leaders like, say, Coach Kennedy and others. These are ordinary citizens, Christian citizens, who didn't remain silent but took their faith public. And we have to remind students of this. Whatever field they're going to go in to be champions for Christ, they have to take their faith public and engage in the civic space. Going back to that whole thing, sacred versus secular, that's a falsehood.
We're talking with Ryan Helfenbein. He's the executive director of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. All right, Ryan, I want to get your take on the modern conservative movement. How does Christian, particularly conservative Christianity, fit into the Republican movement, the modern conservative movement? Are we as influential as we used to be? Do you see signs of our impact? Give us a lay of the land from your perspective.
So certain things that are hopeful, I see that we do have influence. I think that it's important that we don't allow the definition of conservative to be hijacked. So conservative is not just libertarian principles. Conservative is not just, oh, we're pro-free market, good fiscal policy, low taxes, small government, right? It's more than that. Conservative is about conserving. There's a moral center. There's a spiritual center and a foundation to conservatism. So you go back to people like Roger Scruton or even Russell Kirk, and there's others. You have to look at the fact that we believe fundamentally in the renewal and regeneration of the human spirit, the heart. The gospel speaks to that in terms of being born again. And I think that's clear. I think that's right on. So conservatives, yes, we're about promoting political freedom, but at the heart of conservatism and conservative thought is basically adherence and allegiance to God, that we're not looking to government ultimately for life's ultimate questions, for freedom, or any of those things. Government is ultimately a servant, and a servant of the people, and a servant under God. So conservatism is about conserving the culture, conserving morality, promoting the general welfare through promoting righteousness civically. We have to turn people's hearts back to God. And I think that's an important part of this civic renewal that we might be experiencing in this country even now. So I don't want to see the conservative movement get hijacked. I don't want to see immoral figures that are entering in left and right, that are all of a sudden coming on board and promoting all kinds of other things. It's important that we enter into the Republican Party or anywhere into this debate, and I think that debate is welcome. I don't think it's welcome on the left. It's not been welcome. It's all been cancellation and censorship and authoritarianism. So it's very hopeful that we're seeing evangelical engagement probably at its highest, even now, stuff that we didn't even see under President George W. Bush. Donald Trump has proven that he's willing to give a fair listening and an ear to evangelicals on matters that they're most concerned about.
We're talking with Ryan Helfenbein. He's the executive director of Standing for Liberty Center at Liberty University. Now, look, most Christian conservative colleges have a political science department. Okay, so they're spending time in a classroom, training up and teaching the next generation of young Christian conservatives. But what makes Standing for Liberty unique is that they're right in the middle of the public square, in the midst of all the battles happening, trying to provide guidance, speaking wisdom and truth into these battles. So Ryan hosts a podcast, he organizes, he's up on Capitol Hill, he's active, all that stuff. I want to ask your review of the first 40 or so days of Donald Trump's presidency. Your thoughts?
I think that I'm very glad to see the peeling back of these, by executive order, the peeling back of these woke policies. You think about the woke gender policies, you think about DEI, it is great to see that overturning. It's also great to see from the president, from the White House, the Oval Office, a peeling back of discrimination at the federal level, these various agencies that were discriminating against people of faith, Christians in particular, to see executive orders on that front. I'm very, very encouraged to see what the president is doing there, and he's moving at breakneck speed. I also think about, this recent undertaking, the issue that is happening right now with Ukraine and with President Zelensky. He drew a very hard line, the president and J.D. Vance, when it comes to our negotiations, and he's our chief diplomat. He's the chief diplomatic officer. His prerogative to do so under Article 2 of the Constitution. And so I think it's important that we recognize that. The mainstream media and the political establishment doesn't want us to remember that. But I'm seeing leadership, and that's very important to see in the first 40 days. I'm encouraged about the direction. We need legislation. We need Congress to act and step in so that these changes become permanent and not just executive fiat that could be overturned in another administration.
Talking with Ryan Helfenbein. He's the executive director of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. All right, so you brought up Zelensky, Trump. I'm sure you watched what happened on Friday. Phone lines are jam-packed wanting to talk about it. We're going to get to that right after our interview with Ryan. Give us your take of what happened on Friday. What do you think of the U.S. involvement with Ukraine, Russia? Where does this go? What needs to be achieved for peace? Your thoughts on all this?
Well, I think it's important to go back just for a second because the media wants to memory hole everything, lay everything at the feet of President Trump, and act as though that we just recently got engaged in this kind of conflict with Putin. If we go all the way back to 2008, Putin had a full-scale invasion of Georgia. I'm not talking about the state of Georgia. I'm talking about the former Russian state because they wanted to enter into NATO. That was in the second term of the Bush administration. That's when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. He did that. That was under President Bush. You go to 2014, he invaded Crimea, annexed Crimea. Under who? President Obama. President Obama. It was under his watch that happened. You go to 2022, and it was President Biden in his administration that, again, Putin acted as an aggressor. And so what is he doing? He's playing a strategic game here in what he's doing. I think Putin's a thug. I don't think he's trustworthy. But again, this is not a time to go into World War III. This is not a time in the United States where we need to yet again go into another full-scale war. You have to recognize where we are, and this is a chess game long term. When we think about national security and we think about the state of our military right now, we've been involved in basically a quarter-century war in the Middle East that we tried to pull out of. It didn't go too well when we tried to withdraw from Afghanistan. President Trump, again, 77 million people voted for this. He told us exactly what he was going to do. He's going to bring peace to this conflict in Ukraine, and that involves concessions. And not everybody coming to the table making concessions are going to like all of those concessions. But we poured hundreds of billions of dollars into this. Ukraine is depleted. They have no way to fight. Russia's depleted also. They're a client state of the CCP. Beijing is calling shots there. Russia is not a giant. They're not a sleeping giant. They're smaller than Brazil in terms of their economy, smaller than Canada, smaller than Texas, smaller than California. They do not present the kind of threat that, in terms of priority, when you consider all the other threats, whether it be the southern border, or if you look at the fact that China is such a subversive and they've got a long strategic plan in terms of BRICS, you've got to look at all of the bigger picture, and I think Trump is, and we need to come to the table and put an end to this conflict. And that's what he was trying to do. So Zelensky goes in there. All he had to do, Jeff, is smile. He had to be polite. And he essentially needed to sign the agreement, and he didn't do that. He took an opportunity to grandstand. He insulted the president, the vice president, the American people who should be insulted. You played that interview earlier where he was basically calling on American sons and daughters to die for Ukraine. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. There's reasons why we should not trust Zelensky. There's reasons why, hundreds of billions of dollars that have gone in are yet unaccounted for. We don't know where all this money is going. Is it being laundered? We don't know. But we know the money is gone, and we have seen nothing in terms of progress. So there's reasons not to trust Zelensky. Also, he called our vice president Suka under his breath, which is female dog. So he absolutely went in there with bad motives. Diplomatically, I think it was a failure on their part and set them back. I think it set Ukraine back in terms of where the United States stands. We're their biggest ally right now, and they're not operating with good motives.
We're talking with Ryan Helfenbein. He's the executive director of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. Great program, not just a political science department at a good conservative university, but actually training and activating young people to go out into the public square and make a difference. All right, we've got to wrap up with you, Ryan, but give us a sense of everything real quick that Liberty University can offer somebody from undergrad to graduate school to D1 sports opportunities to political engagement. I mean, it's really across the board. All the great things happening at Liberty. Give us a review of it.
Yeah, if you're political or not political, Liberty does have something for you. We have over 15 colleges. We've got 16,000 students in resident. I mean, everything from a business school, a divinity school, school of engineering, school of law, school of education, you name it, Liberty has it. We do have D1 programs, everything from basketball to baseball to football. We've been very successful, have had an amazing track record there. I'll just say, Jeff, also for those who homeschool coast to coast around the country, we have over 18,000 students online in our Liberty Online Academy. That's K through 12. There's all kinds of options there. I would encourage you to check that out. And the other thing is doesn't matter where you are. You do not have to come to Lynchburg, Virginia in order to get a quality education. Everything from bachelor to PhD. Many programs are available and offered remotely online, Liberty Online, Liberty University Online. You can find out information on all of that at liberty.edu, and then Standing for Freedom Center, go to standingforfreedom.com.
Ryan Helfenbein, Executive Director of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University, doing fantastic work, not only training the next generation, but being an active voice for Christian conservative values in the public square. Ryan, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show today.
Thank you, Jeff, brother. Thank you. God bless.
Bless you as well. All right, we'll continue. Want to get to your phone calls and texts. What do you think about what happened Friday in the Oval Office? Boy, oh boy, here's what Jason Crow thought.
I'm completely shocked what we just saw.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
Allies and friends.
Do you consider that what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance do a little attack upon Zelensky, or was Zelensky rude to Trump, Vance, and the American people? And where do you all see this going? What would you want to see with regards to peace in Ukraine? Another question, would you send your sons and daughters to die in Ukraine against Russia? Is it that important to you? 303-696-1971 or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories.
President Volodymyr Zelensky met with a group of anti-Trump Democrats who told him to reject the terms of the mineral deal with President Donald Trump, according to Democrat Senator Chris Murphy. The meeting with the Democrats took place Friday, shortly before Zelensky, Vice President J.D. Vance, and President Donald Trump got into a heated clash in front of the press pool in the Oval Office. Murphy, posting to X, just finished a meeting with President Zelensky here in Washington. He confirmed that the Ukrainian people will not support a fake peace agreement where Putin gets everything he wants and there are no security arrangements for Ukraine. The post was made at 11:15 Friday morning. Attached to the post was a picture of Zelensky at a conference table with Murphy seated on the opposite side. Less than an hour later, Zelensky showed up at the White House to meet President Donald Trump. The reason for the meeting was to sign the mineral deal that Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Zelensky had already agreed to. We now know that after meeting with Murphy, Zelensky had no intention of signing it. Many are now saying the Democrats successfully stopped the mineral agreement and ceasefire that would have been signed, meaning thousands of people will continue to die every week in Ukraine. Israel is facing sharp criticism after banning the entry of all food and other supplies into Gaza. It says there will be additional consequences if the terror group of Hamas doesn't accept what it calls a U.S. proposal for a ceasefire extension. Hamas calls the decision to cut off aid, quote, a war crime and a blatant attack on a ceasefire whose first phase expired Saturday. That phase featured a surge in humanitarian assistance to Gaza's over 2 million people. The two sides have yet to negotiate the second phase. It would include Hamas terrorists releasing dozens of remaining hostages in return for Israel's pullout and a lasting ceasefire. The Department of Education is offering its employees up to $25,000 if they quit, retire, or resign by today, according to an internal memo. The offer comes as President Donald Trump has directed all federal agency heads to drastically reduce the size of their workforce. The voluntary separation incentive payment is a one-time offer/payment to those who accept it before the department starts reducing the size of its workforce on March 31st. President Donald Trump's senior aides and allies are speaking out against Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky and what they call his disrespectful behavior in the Oval Office and his refusal to accept peace in Ukraine. Their criticism from Washington came as he attended a European summit Sunday in London to rally international support for his military's fight against Russia. Following Trump's lead, White House officials and Republicans in Congress are demanding that Zelensky display more gratitude for U.S. support and an openness to potential war-ending ceasefire.
That's what you need to know at this hour. In Dallas, Christina Aguayo, Salem News Channel.
Jeff and Bill Show. Boy, oh boy, Friday morning, it dropped. Trump, Zelensky, Vance in the Oval Office. That was wild. Here's Jason Crow.
I'm completely shocked what we just saw come out of the White House today as President Trump and Vice President Vance literally attacked one of our closest allies and friends.
Yeah, that's not what happened at all. From my perspective, I think this is what Trump sees. So Trump wants to get to a peace deal, right? This is a stupid war. It's a stupid war that's costing lots of lives, millions of dollars. I believe that Vladimir Putin is the aggressor here. I believe it, okay? But what I saw from Zelensky in the White House was not a willingness to get to justice, even the original lines or peace. That, and, you know, I don't disagree that he probably feels this way, that there needs to be a form of retribution against Putin. There needs to be a pound of flesh that comes from Russia for what they've done to the Ukrainian people. Okay, I get it. But the question is that the right guy to sit at the table to negotiate peace at this point? Is the guy that's been wronged most in the bar fight the one that should settle what's happening, or do you need somebody to step in and go, look, I get it. I understand you're angry, you're frustrated, you want your pound of flesh, but we don't want to go to World War III. We're tired of the war. Do we have to give up a little bit of land? Possibly. Do we need to look at other ways to try to contain Putin? Yes, but I do not believe that Zelensky's in the right frame of mind to be the guy at the table to try to get peace done. That's my perspective. Let's go to the phone lines. Kathy Hudson, good morning. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Yes. So after an hour and a half of being on the phone, anyway, what about the Warsaw Pact? Wasn't that supposed to be for a buffer between NATO and Russia?
I don't know, Bill. What do you know about the Warsaw Pact?
You've had an hour and a half to look it up on Google.
No. Okay. Sorry that we were doing other things in the radio show, Kathy. I apologize that you had to wait. That seems to make you mad about that. Warsaw Pact was the agreement between Russia and other Eastern European countries. It was the answer to NATO. So it is Russia's version of NATO. That's the thumbnail sketch.
Well, there you go.
So how does that bring peace with Ukraine? What do you think?
Actually, there was supposed to be a buffer, just like Cuba. My God. You know, Billy, you should know that.
All right. Thanks for the call, Kathy. Kathy's line will be open, 303-696-1971. Kathy, I hope you have a better Monday. Let's go to Ron Stapleton. Good morning, Ron. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning, guys. Boy, Kathy's tough. Anyway, I think you guys are making it a little bit more complicated than it is. Here's what happened, okay? And I haven't heard this on any of the radio shows, but I did see it on the internet. What happened was there was supposed to be agreed upon deal between Ukrainian Parliament and United States, and Zelensky was supposed to go there and sign it. They had all the pens lined up.
Yep.
But before the meeting, the Democrats met with Zelensky and told him not to take the deal unless there was a additional security arrangement. So that's what killed the deal at the meeting. So when Zelensky brought that up at the meeting, Vance and Trump were ready for him, to fight back. And the Democrats want this because they want the deal to fall apart so they can say Trump, just for political reasons, so they can say Trump is a stooge of Putin.
I've heard that too.
Got a question for you, Ron. Is this a different meeting than the meeting that was done that included Lindsey Graham and other Republicans? Because there was a meeting that happened before the Oval Office, but it had both Democrats and Republicans in the meeting. Are you talking about a third meeting?
No, I'm talking about the one that happened before the meeting with the Democrats in it, because
that was bipartisan.
They were bragging.
I know, but they were
bragging
bipartisan.
about how they were bragging about how they killed it. Lindsey Graham is not. Let's be honest. He's not partisan.
He has an R behind his name. He votes with Republicans. I think that's fair enough to say he's a Republican.
Yeah, but he's
but it is bipartisan. It wasn't just a meeting with the Democrats. It was a meeting that had representation from both sides, both parties, regardless of how you feel about them. I'm just wondering if it was a separate meeting of Democrats only. I haven't seen an only Democrat meeting. I've seen the bipartisan meeting. but I haven't seen the Democrat-only media. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just curious about that. And I understand the critiques of the Democrats, but the critique the Democrats had about the deal seems fair. And this is what I mean by that, Ron, is there is no guarantee of security for Zelensky in Ukraine. What it is that Russia promises, super secret promise, to stop fighting, and then the U.S. gets some economic development with Ukraine's mineral rights, and that's it. That's all that was outlined inside the deal.
Bill, that would not be a good thing for the United States to agree to. Any security agreement for Ukraine that the United States enters into will result in us fighting Russia, period.
Well, what do you do with the agreement we signed in 1994 with them that does exactly that?
Well, Biden and
it wasn't Biden. My man,
broke that.
that's way before. That's 94. It's well before Biden. That's before Obama. This is 94. This is 94 post-Cold War. So what do you do with that? We promised them that we would defend their sovereignty in 1994. That was the agreement we made with them in the post-Cold War in order for them to give up their nuclear arsenal.
How do we promise to do that? Go into war and fight with Russia?
No, we promised to secure their sovereignty because they were giving up 19. That's a good question. That's a good question because, and what I'm looking at, Ron, right now is, do you see? Let's just pick yourself up. Do you see from the Ukrainian side of things why they feel a little bit abandoned, especially by NATO and their ally U.S., because the U.S. told them that if you gave up your nuclear weapons in 1994, that we would protect your sovereignty. And I'm not putting this in the feet of Trump. I'm putting this in the feet of all American presidents, because this is not just a Trump issue. I mean, I have got a lot of vitriol for Barack Obama. If you want to push me on it, I think Obama is the cause of why this war starts, because he lets Russia take Crimea. He shows them that we're a laydown. I have got so much built-up frustration and hate towards Obama for that. I think that he laid the ground for this action we're dealing with right now because he wasn't a man and didn't push back. He didn't honor the 94 agreement. So I understand why Ukraine's pissed. I understand why Zelensky doesn't think we're going to follow through. Because then when we signed a peace agreement, when he signed a ceasefire agreement with Russia, when Zelensky signed it with Putin in 2019, Russia didn't stop fighting, and nobody tried to enforce that peace deal, that ceasefire. And that's the question Zelensky has. He sees in 1994 we've walked away from a deal that ensured sovereignty for Ukraine, and then in 2019 the U.S. didn't do anything to ensure that Russia honored a ceasefire. So he's wondering, why do I, as the leader of Ukraine, believe any agreement the U.S. or Russia says is going to be held? Yeah. Because his previous example is he doesn't have any of that. Go ahead,
Ron. Can I interject? Yeah, my wife is from Poland, so she's familiar with the mindset in that area. They obviously see that Russia's broken every agreement they've ever had.
Yeah.
Okay, so they know that they can't trust any diplomacy agreement that Putin makes. However, Trump he was accused of siding with Russia, but if you look at his first term, he put major sanctions on Russia that completely crippled it.
Yeah.
So,
look,
I mean, that's...
Look, I understand, too, that it sucks to be in Ukraine right now and have to share this border with Russia. I understand. I don't want American involvement. I'm tired of these endless, constant battles where we sacrifice treasure and then eventually our sons and daughters, and then we leave like Afghanistan and Iraq, and they just go right back to the crap hole countries that they are. All right, Ron, thank you so much for the call.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Appreciate it. All right, we'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
I guess, first of all, I'm a Vietnam vet, and the way I understood what Trump's deal was for Zelensky was that Zelensky would pay rare earths to the United States for every bullet, bandage, and body bag that we ever sent over there for their troops. There was no promise, as Bill points out, of any future security. So all it was collecting a debt, right?
Yeah, it sure appears that way.
So all we're doing is collecting the debt. Now, there's no guarantee whatsoever that there will be any more bullets, bandages, or body bags. That means Ukrainians are going to lose. Okay, so we own the rare earths. We have a deal now. Good point that we want to cut a deal with Putin so that when the Russians take over, we will have those rare earths. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, and Russia could come in and give us a better deal. They could see whatever deal we offer Ukraine and go, we're going to give you 20% more.
I do disagree. Listening to Marco Rubio talk about the deal, he believes that U.S. presence there with regards to rare earth metals is going to increase security because now we have a vested interest there.
Oh, excuse me, but that's stupid. And here's the reason. Think about who is going to be the policeman that is securing whatever we're doing in our mining operations. It can be either a Ukrainian or it can be a Russian, provided both people agree to it. Do you think Putin is not going to agree that he can give us our rare earths and have our people there without any problem as long as you let me be the policeman that's watching your mine?
So you
Come
think
on, Bill.
you think that the United States is willing to partner with Russia in order to have security over those rare earths?
Yeah, why not?
Where in what other areas are we partnering with Russia? I just don't see that as a common trend.
Well, I haven't looked at that, but I have a feeling that without the sanctions that we have put on Russia, and think about those sanctions. Those sanctions are basically that we can't, and U.S. business cannot do any deals with Russia.
Right.
Now, if I remember so correctly, when Donald Trump was hot to trot about getting a hotel or something like that in Moscow.
Ralph, we'll have to continue the conversation. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show. Thanks for the call.
710 KNUS.
let's go back to the phone lines. They've been hot this morning on the throwdown that took place in the White House on Friday between Trump, Zelensky, and Vance. Joining us now, Jack from Wyoming. Good morning, Jack. What'd you think of all that?
I think everything you guys have said today is very good. I know it's very complicated, but I mean, I think it's really a lot simpler than that. I think it's just about trying to stop the killing. I think that's number one. But Zelensky seems to think he doesn't understand. He has no cards of his own to play, and he thinks he can play our hand for us. And I think if that's his attitude, they need to replace him before they lose everything.
Now, that's interesting. I like the idea that you went with the cards because Jeff and I, oddly enough, we're just talking about this off the air. When I heard that with Trump saying, you have no cards to play, you have no cards to play.
That's right.
Now, with you, Jack, what did you hear? What did you hear Trump telling Zelensky in that moment? And then I'll tell you what I heard. And I'm curious to see if we came to the same conclusion. What did you hear Trump telling Zelensky when he's telling him, you have no cards to play?
Well, it means that we're moving towards isolationism, which we've done a million times in the past. We're sick and tired of paying their bill, and we're sick and tired of watching people get killed. I think that's what he's telling them.
I think that's fair. I think that's really fair.
But they're the only ones that can move in that direction, and they're not willing to move in that direction. So either Zelensky has to step down and get somebody in there with enough diplomacy to work this thing out, or else they lose everything. I don't see any way out for them.
Now, I might disagree on your conclusion there, but I think you're accurate based on how Trump was seeing it. And what I saw is, I'll go a layer deeper, what I saw is Trump's view being transactional inside a foreign policy. That if he feels you have something that we may want, need, or you have some form of power or something else, you have cards on the table. And if you don't, then you don't play. You don't get part of the game. For me, what I heard was that Trump isn't about choosing the right side or the wrong side. And we can be very clear, Russia is the wrong side in this argument and in this war. Russia is the wrong side. They're the aggressors. They're the one that took the steps in order to start this war. And what I hear Trump not being concerned about right or wrong, being concerned about who has the power and how do I play this. And this is why I think it's important to me. If I'm China, I make a move on Taiwan in the next 3 years because Taiwan doesn't have any cards and China has a lot of cards. And Trump just said, if you don't have cards, you don't necessarily get a seat at the game.
I think part of to your analysis, I think it's a fair analysis, is that there is this kind of moralizing that takes place, particularly with Zelensky, because he feels wrong, and rightfully so. And so he wants a pound of flesh from Russia in order to get a peace deal done. And I think Trump, to his credit, is trying to get past that to a point of ending this war without getting caught up in who started this. There needs to be retribution for Russia, all that.
Yeah. Let me offer you this one. The problem with the Russians and what they did is because they saw weakness under Obama, they think might makes right. Now, China wants to do the exact same thing. But you know what? This guy Zelensky, he'd be the next one in line to play that same game.
Yeah, Jack, I do think that's fair, and thanks for the phone call, and I appreciate what you said about Obama, 110%. I still say it is Obama that is the first decision that led us down the road for this war starting. If Obama would have pushed back harder on Crimea, if Obama would have taken a stand there, we would not be in this situation, in my opinion. And I will never, ever forgive the Obama administration for being that weak on foreign policy and not defending American interest. I will never forgive him for that.
Is that informing then your perspective that we need to draw the line here?
Yeah.
That if Putin even gets 25 square miles of Ukraine, he's just going to continue to do this.
Yeah, that's part of it because I've seen him try to take and take and take and take and take and take. And he doesn't honor any peace deals. He doesn't honor any ceasefires. It is for him about cards to kind of close the circle.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, let's spend some time with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Thanks a lot, Jeff and Billy. 41 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 62 today. The 7-10 5-day forecast coming up. Our top story is shooting early this morning involving deputies in Fort Collins. Not a lot of information on it, including if there were any injuries, but the sheriff's department says the suspect is in custody. Ukrainian President Zelensky says there will be diplomacy for peace after he had, of course, the tense exchange of words with DJT last week. NBC News' Garrett Hoke reporting.
This morning, Zelensky sharing a video saying, "We understand the importance of America," and, quote, "There hasn't been a single day when we haven't felt grateful for the U.S.'s support," after saying yesterday that he's ready to sign a minerals deal and believes the relationship can be salvaged.
All right. Over the weekend, the Kremlin said the Trump administration is changing American foreign policy to put in line with Russia's vision.
Dear Americans, if you're waving a Ukrainian flag or putting a Ukrainian flag in your bio, I want to ask you, what exactly are you supporting? Are you supporting a war that the U.S. and Europe sparked by constantly expanding NATO closer to Russian borders since 1994? Are you supporting a war that was sparked by the U.S. helping to overthrow a democratically elected Ukrainian president in 2014 because he was pro?
Hey, good points. Kazan Asaidu online. And UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer over the weekend, NATO EU warmonger, trying to rope the U.S. into war in Ukraine against the Russians. He's putting British troops on the ground, that's what he says, in Ukraine, even though Putin is ready to negotiate. And DJT is calling them on it once again on Friday, putting the little dancing dictator Zelensky in his place.
Feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless.
You don't
God
know
bless.
that.
You
Don't-
will not have
you
a
gotta-
war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
And once again, Zelensky saying this morning there will be diplomacy for peace. Senator Mike Lee and Elon and others say that we need to pull out of NATO because they're going to try to get us into World War III a couple of years ago. Here's what the great General Flynn said on Ukraine.
You know, so why is Ukraine so important? Well, it's a hub for human trafficking. It's a hub for specifically for child trafficking. It's a hub for narcotics trafficking. It's a hub for weapons trafficking. We know about our biolabs because Victoria Nuland said we had them there. I mean, we've always known that, but you know that's stated now publicly. And there's a lot of money just flowing into this this country. And you say to yourself, where is this money going? And
Boy, isn't that the truth? Over 2,000 soldiers from Fort Carson, that is, will be deployed to the southern border as a part of DJT's immigration crackdown. The soldiers will assist with logistics support, detection, monitoring, and administrative support, among other things. Epstein files now, and Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI director, illegally spied on DJT. Remember that? James Comey. She has been obstructing evidence with other corruptocrats in the Southern FBI office in New York. AG Pam Bondi.
Assured there's no more. I found out, this week that a source told me New York, SDNY, they're sitting on thousands of pages of documents regarding Epstein. Thousands. And of course, you've seen the very strong letter. We will get everything. We will have it in our possession. We will redact it, of course, to protect grand jury information.
The Department of Education is offering $25,000, a buyout to employees who quit by today. Take it. Look for another job. Massa. Make America smart again. Elon on Rogan over the weekend worries about being assassinated, but pressing on.
The reason I went so hardcore for Trump was because, to me, this was a fork in the road. A very obvious fork in the road. If they had another 4 years, they would legalize enough illegals in the swing states to make the swing states not swing states. They would be blue states. Then they would win the presidential. They'd win the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They would then make district, D.C. into a state, maybe Puerto Rico
and then it would have been the end. Author of Technology or the technological republic. Alex Karp.
There's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? Like, how do you explain that to people? And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is they mean you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is, we want this to happen, we want to happen, we want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is, it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
And already is. Celtics beat the Nuggets 110-103. 37 in Lone Tree, 38 in Arvada, 41 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
Tell me how they're shoving it down your throat.
You tried to change it up. Listen.
No, I didn't. I'm just trying to qualify the conversation.
And we had just had pancakes.
Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
After a beautiful spring-like weekend in Denver, the weather pendulum going to swing the other way now. It is March, so we know that these wild swings will happen. Temperatures will be reaching the low 60s today with a chance of rain showers developing come late afternoon and evening, then rain and snow turning to snow showers tonight. Windy and much colder, lows lower 30s, strong northwest winds. Snow showers Tuesday, mainly early in the day, highs 30s, low 40s, and very windy. Could see some light accumulations of snow tonight and tomorrow. Lows tomorrow night 20s, rebounding temperatures Wednesday, another storm system arriving Thursday and Friday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Joining us now is Brandy Bradley. You know her. She represents Colorado House District 39. She's the spessa one down at the state capitol. Always taking it right to the radical libs down there. She's a mom. She works in business. I mean, she's active in her community. She does it all. She's got a new bill up that's actually going to be heard today, House Bill 25-1256. The idea that this is even controversial to me is just crazy. It would require the consent of a parent or legal guardian before implementing a do not resuscitate order on a minor. I get, like, why is this even? This should pass 100%. That maybe if your kid is dying, you work to bring them back unless the parents have said, no, because of health complications, we have a DNR. But it's not the job of the hospital to just make up a do not resuscitate order. What in the world is going on? Brandy, thanks so much for taking time to join the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning. This sounds crazy.
Good morning, you guys. Thanks for having me on. It's actually being heard tomorrow. I am not at the Capitol today. I've got a sick kid, but yes, this came from a woman, Cheryl Grossier, who had a son who had trisomy 13 and cleft palate, and she found out later the nurses urged her to look into her son's chart, Simon's chart, and found out that they were undernourishing her baby behind her back. And when the baby, his oxygen levels went down and he coded, the doctor wrote a DNR, and the baby died.
So this is based on, and this happened in Colorado?
It did not happen in Colorado, but
okay.
What we find around the country is that in Colorado law, there is no black and white. So any medical provider can write a DNR. And so we want to write this bill. I mean, we don't know if it's not happened in Colorado.
Yeah.
But we know that we need a bill to make sure that this does not happen in Colorado. We don't want a Simon to happen in Colorado, especially with our disabled community.
Yeah, trisomy 18. I think that's what Rick Santorum's daughter has. She's now 16, going on 17 years old, lives a wonderful life. Family takes care of her. The idea that alone is a qualification for starving a child until it dies is ridiculous. Wow. So
I agree.
You got this bill. It's going to be heard tomorrow. Give us your sense on how Democrats are going to respond to this.
You know, I think that they are there to kill all of my bills, so I don't have a great sense. We have a lot of people from the disabled community come in to testify, and a lot of people from the healthcare freedom, parental rights groups come in to testify. I feel like it's a no-brainer, but, I think rational mindset in that Golden Dome is out the window, so I've yet to find it.
Have you asked any Democrats to co-sponsor it with you?
Oh, Bill or Jeff, yes. They're bills is what I've been told.
I'm sorry, you broke up there a little bit. They're not co-sponsoring any bills with you?
Yes, they're not allowed to co-prime any bills with me. In fact, one Democrat just took her name off a bill that I just got out of committee. So, yeah, I mean, when you speak out about what's happening in the Golden Dome, there are repercussions for that. So I'm glad to take them.
I saw you speaking out about some anti-theft bills and other things that were happening down there. Can you spend a few minutes telling us what happened last week? Because I believe you introduced a bill that would have increased penalties for stealing out of these businesses. And then Javier Marbury, I think, introduced a competing bill. What happened there?
Oh, he did, right? He wants to go against municipalities like Aurora who are making theft bigger crimes. They're punishing theft for felonies. And so in the state of Colorado, these organized retail theft gangs come into Colorado because they know it's a petty offense to steal. And they go out of businesses with all kinds of goods, and businesses are paying the price. And they act like it's these big box stores, but it's not. It's small mom and dad businesses that are losing tons of product, basically. And so we were trying to protect these small businesses and the gift cards. So we have these gift card thefts, and I don't think the people of Colorado understand. These thieves go into the stores. They take massive amounts of gift cards. They go home. They manipulate the numbers. They take them back to the stores. So when you go to buy an Amazon gift card to give to your niece, nephew, or kid, you put money on that. That money is instantly gone. And we have no bills or laws that will go after the thieves in that. They made it sound like I'm going to prosecute teenagers for stealing a loaf of bread, which is completely untrue. It's gaslighting, and that's why they don't want to pass bills.
Oh, Brandy Bradley, I am so happy that you are bringing that one up because that is an underappreciated theft right now in the Denver metro area. It is
Help me understand what happens. They go and get a card?
What you do is you go and you get the cards. You go and you grab handfuls, because they have them in racks.
Right.
You grab handfuls. You then leave the store with them. Oftentimes, there aren't any security devices on those cards. You then access the card and get the number off the card. You don't need the PIN number necessarily. You can get the number off the card, and then you take ownership of that. You bring the card back to the retail spot. You put it back up on the rack. When someone goes to the checkout stand and checks out and says, I want to put $100 on this card, it pops up in your account, and that card is worthless. That person walks out of there not knowing until the person they're giving the card to tries to use it. So you could send that to your wife, you can send it to your mother, you can send it to friends, you can send it to coworkers.
Yeah,
here's $100.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And then your friend, your family member walks into the store, and the card's dead.
And so you wanted to increase the penalty on that, Brandy?
Absolutely. We were going to increase the penalty on that, and they said, you're going to charge teenagers for walking out with a gift card. No, these are organized theft, crime
I know, Mike, yes, charge them for it, yes.
Right.
Well, the Democrats on judiciary they've made Colorado safer. They've passed 40 new bills that have increased crime, theft, and all of these things in Colorado, and we put out a great video about that. No, you haven't. No one believes that. We are the second least safe state in the country. And with all these bills that you have passed, nothing is making our state safer. And to slap business owners in the face while they're losing products and having to go out of business is incredible. We've gone from 37,000 businesses filing product theft to 40,000 businesses this year. So you can say property crime is going down, but when you finagle business theft out of that, it's completely skyrocketing compared to our state.
Brandy Bradley, Representative District 39, I got something for you. Next time anybody with a D next to their name that's a lawmaker talks about how they have lowered property crime and lowered, theft from retail, businesses, stuff like that, bring up this point. The Democrats are free to claim that once your constituents have to stop pushing a doorbell at the grocery store to get Tide Pods. Once I don't have to push a doorbell to get access to Oil of Olay and other, lotions at the stupid grocery store, then you can tell me you have taken a real chunk out of retail theft. But as long as we've got those things locked up behind cases in our grocery stores and in our department stores and in our places like Walgreens, as long as those things are locked up, you're not doing squat. That's the bottom line.
I agree. You know what? JCPenney is about to have to start locking up their Levi 501 jeans because they are stealing them. It's the worst in Colorado. So you're going to have to go ask for an associate to give you a pair of Levi jeans.
Yeah, and the problem with that is, think about this. Think about the opportunity cost of lost revenue because you don't want to go through the BS of it.
Right.
Now, you're there, and you may want to spend, you may want to buy more detergent, dishwashing detergent. You may be there, you may want to buy some of the face cream. You're standing there. You are ready to spend the money in that store, but now you have to wait for somebody to come over to you and to get that and open the door, and then you get it. All of that time is opportunity cost, and you may lose that purchase. You have to go into the store, and the jeans are behind a locked case, and you have to ask somebody to see them. At that point, it's easier for you to go home and order them off Amazon. You will not be spending money in our community. It will tank economic development inside of Colorado and inside the Denver metro area. This is phenomenally obtuse by the Democrats. They need to wake up and smell themselves because they stink.
I agree. And, you know, we have 4 Walgreens in Aurora itself closing. You think about these people that have to ride transit just to get groceries and things like that. You're just making life harder for the people of Colorado. It's so unfair.
Yeah, it is.
Now, we're talking with Brandy Bradley. She represents House District 39, which is in Douglas County. So what did Javier Marbury introduce that's going to prevent localities from actually punishing these guys in a worse fashion, right? Help me understand what he's introduced.
Yeah, it was, you know, I wasn't on Judiciary, but the Republicans were blowing me up because he said, you know, we take it very serious when we're going to put people's freedoms, take their freedoms away and put them in jail. And I thought, what are you doing to small business owners? You're taking their freedom to have a business in Colorado. We have shut them down. The Denver restaurants are begging Mike Johnson to clean up downtown Denver. I mean, businesses are struggling, and we're just basically giving them the middle finger. So Javier Mabry introduced a bill to make it harder for municipalities to inflict stricter penalties because he saw what Danielle Durinsky has done in Aurora to make retail theft. I mean, you walk into King Soopers and it tells you in a big sign, you steal, and these are the things that are going to happen to you. And they've already cut down on tremendous retail theft in Aurora. And so now we are going to go after the municipalities that are actually taking a great effort to protect their businesses because the state isn't doing it. And now he's going to pass a law in the state of Colorado that is going to tie the hands of local municipalities. It's just unbelievable to me.
So if anybody remembers that video of folks getting arrested in Orange County, California, and they're sitting in the back of the cop car and they're coming to terms with the fact that stealing in Orange County results in you going to jail, whereas if you steal in like LA County, for instance, you just get a ticket, and they're coming to terms with the decisions they've made in their lives like, oh no, I stole in the wrong county, now I'm heading to jail. That the ability of localities like Aurora, like Douglas County, to inflict harsher penalties upon people who steal is being taken away by the Democrats down at the Colorado State.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want to remind everybody, Javier Marbury is educated at Berkeley Law. That's the crap we're dealing with in this state. These guys are coming from Berkeley Law, airdropping into the state of Colorado and destroying it.
Well, and I'll tell you something else, Jeff and Bill. In California, they made these penalties of theft low, like petty offenses like we have in Colorado. And so they overwhelmingly passed, I think it was Prop 136, to make these crimes heftier penalties because California is like, we are done with all this. So they do the citizen ballot initiatives. And I would be willing to say that hopefully we will see this on the ballot because I am so tired of this. I think the citizens have got to go against these rogue lawmakers and defend small business in our state. they'll never survive if we don't.
Oh, absolutely. We need to protect the small businesses. You know, we can all throw rocks at some of the larger franchises and things around, but it is the small business community that keeps our very own neighborhoods alive. I mean, we talk about chasing the American dream, and it is that mom and pop store, the people that are struggling and they're taking money. Sometimes they're not taking the salary they're actually deserved in order to make sure the people they're employing are paid. And when they're the victims of theft, they don't have the same type of insurance. And they also don't have several $billion in revenue in order to carve off losses. They don't have the same ability to take some of the tax write-offs that these large corporations do. These are the people that we need to protect. You're absolutely right. What the Democrats have done to try to understand what the criminals are going through and try to lower the penalties is atrocious. Because you can understand what the person who committed the crime is going through, but you don't need to excuse it. And that's the problem. The Democrats are looking for excuses. We can hold them accountable, and we can look at rehabilitation, but the last thing we do is excuse the behavior.
I agree. And until we do that, we are going to have a crime-ridden state, and people aren't going to be able to flourish here. We've made it so hard for them to live and afford employees, and we're just making it harder on the people of Colorado, and it's just disgusting behavior, and it's hard to walk into that Golden Dome knowing that that's what we're doing for the people that we work for.
Keep up the fight.
Well, we're talking with Representative Brandy Bradley. I strongly encourage you to follow her on X at Bradley, Bradley, 4 FORCO. You can also go to her website, brandybradleyforhd39.com. Learn about the bill she's going to introduce tomorrow, which should pass 100%. Nobody should oppose this bill, and if they do, they got some explaining to do.
Yeah, ask them why.
And yeah, exactly. And
reach out.
Based upon what happens, please come back on our show and give us a sense of some of the arguments that were made. This is a bill requiring the consent of a parent or legal guardian before implementing a DNR. That's a do not resuscitate order for a minor.
Yeah.
You know, I
Whose
understand,
choice is that?
Like, if a parent is like, look, there's so many health complications, they're barely hanging on. The parent wants to speak into it and go, look, DNR is actually a form of compassion for this child. I get it, okay? But to do it without the parent's notification, that's killing a child.
It's just ridiculous.
Without the parent speaking into it. That's murder.
Yeah, why wouldn't the parents have some sort of voice on this? Why wouldn't the parents be allowed to make that choice? Why wouldn't the parents who are supposed to provide for that child in whatever circumstances exist during the rest of the life, they should be allowed to make that choice? It is an abomination to say the parents are cut out of this decision. And I challenge anybody to give me a rational explanation as to why they shouldn't have a seat at the table when these discussions are happening. It is ridiculous to cut them out of this decision. You wouldn't want anybody that is a parent would not want to have a hospital to make that kind of a decision without talking to you first. Imagine that your child has been in a horrible car accident. You show up at the hospital, and the hospital said, well, we made this decision. We made this decision to let them go. How dare you? That's not your decision to make.
Brandy, I think you should.
I love the passion. Thanks, guys. I appreciate
Brandy,
that.
clip that and play it tomorrow. That's Bill's official testimony on this.
Yes.
And
That is.
for all the progressives to know, this is where Bill Thorpe stands. They should all jump on this.
Yes, they should. And tell them, come on the show. Explain themselves. We have an open phone line. They think it's right. Come here and tell everybody in Denver why it's right.
Brandy, you're doing great work. We're so
Yes, you
grateful
are.
for you. And please check in later this week. Let us know how it goes.
Yes, hope the little one's feeling better. Please take care of them. You're
Thanks,
the
guys.
best.
Thanks for getting my voice out there. I appreciate you so very much. God bless.
Yep.
Hey, God
To
bless you.
Brandy
Appreciate you, too.
Bradley. All right, speaking of great people, I want to tell you about Dan Caplis and Dan Caplis Law. Dan suggests you should choose a lawyer who shares your values, because who you choose to represent you in an injury case says a lot about you to everyone involved in the case. Dan Caplis is the son of a police officer and a former seminarian who's dedicated the last 40 years of his life to helping people who are hurt in serious motor vehicle crashes. While being a great guy, solid values, what really matters is, does he win in the courtroom? Yes, listen to this. Dan is believed to be the only lawyer in Colorado history to win 5 straight multi-million-dollar verdicts in Colorado crash cases. Dan is also believed to have won the largest truck crash verdict in Colorado history. Dan Caplis Law is so trusted that he's the official law firm partner of the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche. Dan Caplis Law is a serious firm for serious cases. Dan accepts righteous injury cases on a percentage fee basis so that he can represent good people from all walks of life without regard to ability to pay. So if you need Dan's help, here's the phone number, 303-770-5551. That's 303-770-5551, or hit dancaplisLaw.com. That's Dan, C-A-P-L-I-S Law.com. All right, we'll continue. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. Let's take some questions and callers on the Colorado's crime problem. Do you agree with Brandy Bradley that we need to increase the penalties, that we need to hold people accountable, and we need to get tough on this in order to protect small businesses, protect our communities? It's just too crime-ridden out there. Or do you agree with Javier Maveri and the progressives that they're just misunderstood people trying to steal a loaf of bread to feed themselves, and we shouldn't increase these penalties? We'd love to hear from you. Again, the phone line, 303-696-1971, or text us at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. After Friday's incident in the Oval Office between Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky and President Donald Trump, a senior U.S. official said that Washington's investigations into waste, fraud, and abuse involving hundreds of billions of dollars given to Ukraine will be fast-tracked. The official, speaking on the condition of anonymity, said Elon Musk and his Doge team have already started looking into potential problems with the large amounts of assistance given to Ukraine, but those efforts will now be sped up. Immediately after the meeting, Secretary of State Marco Rubio terminated U.S. support of Ukraine's power grid, while some officials are saying President Trump is about to end all military aid to Ukraine, but no moves have been made just yet. Elon Musk posting to X, quote, "Time to find out what really happened to the hundreds of billions of dollars sent to Ukraine." Crowds of people lined the streets over the weekend near a Vermont ski resort protesting Vice President J.D. Vance the day after an Oval Office blowout over Ukraine. Vance was in the area to vacation with his family. Many of the hundreds of protesters held signs in support of Ukraine and Zelensky, while other anti-Israel protesters waved Palestinian flags or signs in support of open border policies. Protesters showed up at several locations in the area, including both sides of Route 100 in Waitsfield. Though protests were planned days in advance, they were energized by the heated Oval Office exchange on Friday between Vance, President Donald Trump, and Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Israel is facing sharp criticism after banning the entry of all food and other supplies into Gaza. It says there will be additional consequences if the terror group of Hamas doesn't accept what it calls a U.S. proposal for a ceasefire extension. Hamas calls the decision to cut off aid, quote, a war crime and a blatant attack on a ceasefire whose first phase expired Saturday. That phase featured a surge in humanitarian assistance to Gaza's over 2 million people. The two sides have yet to negotiate the second phase. It would include Hamas terrorists releasing dozens of remaining hostages in return for Israel's pullout and a lasting ceasefire. President Donald Trump's senior aides and allies are speaking out against Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky and what they call his disrespectful behavior in the Oval Office and his refusal to accept peace in Ukraine. Their criticism from Washington came as he attended a European summit Sunday in London to rally international support for his military's fight against Russia. Following Trump's lead, White House officials and Republicans in Congress are demanding that Zelensky display more gratitude for U.S. support and an openness to potential war-ending ceasefire. The Department of Education is offering its employees up to $25,000 if they quit, retire, or resign by today, according to an internal memo. In Dallas, Christina Owayo, Salem News Channel.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. Great conversation with Brandy Bradley. So she's got a bill down at the state capitol being heard yesterday requiring the consent of a parent or legal guardian before implementing a DNR, or a do not resuscitate order on a minor.
What? Why do we have to have a rule about this? The thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around is
She's like, no.
Why? Yeah. Why is it okay for the hospital to decide this?
Right.
Why is it ever okay for them to make this without talking to and checking in with the family? And I know that I'm being very emotional about this, but that's okay, because my oldest, we were told when he was born, within 24 hours, he's not going to make it. They told us, prepare yourselves. Your firstborn is going to die. Now, how would I feel if I came back to the NICU the next morning and they said, oh, he had some struggles overnight, we let him go? Excuse me? We didn't do everything we could to save his life. We didn't follow the Hippocratic Oath to do no harm.
Yeah.
We decided that it was better to let him go. But now, again, we heard during Obamacare about the idea of death panels and that doctors will decide who lives and who dies.
Right.
MFers, this is it. This is exactly what it is. You're giving the hospital the power to decide which children live and die. That is not their role or responsibility.
I think what you'll see from Democrats as someone who ran lobbying teams down at the Colorado State Capitol and sat through endless committee hearings on lots of different issues.
Yeah.
Their response will be, we don't know it's happening. We don't have evidence it's happening. So now we're just creating additional restrictions for basically ghosts. You're out there fighting ghosts.
Well, unfortunately, though, Brandy has a real-life example of where outside of the parent's purview, a DNR was placed on the child, and the only people that had access to be able to do that was the hospital administration. So we have this happened. Right. And you know what? If it wasn't happening, we wouldn't have to make rules. If the hospitals weren't doing this, we wouldn't have to make rules about it. And that's the issue. And absence the rule, does that mean the hospital then is allowed to make that decision?
Right.
Could they come back? Could they come back and in a situation say, well, there's no rule saying we can't make this decision, so you can't sue us. You can't. Your multi-million-dollar lawsuit about the death of your child because we decided it was too complicated, and who knows, maybe someone was on vacation and it would have taken too much time to get the actual specialist in here. It would have been easier, and we just felt that this was not the best use of our time. You have any idea how many emergencies we had last night? We couldn't possibly pay attention to this emergency, too.
Well,
so
Suzanne,
it's okay. We could make this decision.
Suzanne texted in, have you verified that doctors can make this decision? Well, the story is of a boy named Simon Crozier, a baby boy with trisomy 18. And I did clarify this did not happen in Colorado, but he was born in 2010 with a repairable congenital heart defect, a bilateral a cleft lip. He was later diagnosed with trisomy 18 on the third day of his life. And like I said, I think that's similar to what the Santorums have with Bella. And it's a life-debilitating disease. You're not going to ever heal from it. You're not going to live a life of independence. You're going to be required on your parents. But that's still, okay. There's lots of that happens to babies. It's not necessary to kill them over it. Then at nearly 3 months of age, just days before his heart surgery consultation, tragedy struck. Simon's oxygen levels dropped, and we, the Croziers, pleaded with the medical staff to intervene. But to our shock and dismay, no code blue resuscitation was engaged, while we were calmly informed that his life was ending and there's nothing that could be done to save him. It wasn't until a nurse compassionately informed us that their hands were tied, encouraged us to closely examine Simon's medical records, that we learned the gut-wrenching truth. Unbeknownst to us, a doctor had placed a do not resuscitate order on Simon. He also ordered only comfort feeds, which is the least amount of food possible to sustain life, and prescribed a medication that expedited his death by suppressing his respiratory drive. But then the most shocking revelation of all was that ours is not an isolated incident. And then they go to a website where you can learn more. So the point being, The doctor did this without consulting the parents or coming to a decision together about this.
And this is the thing for me is I understand the idea of lumping a whole bunch of extra rules and regulations, and I'm not in favor of that. However, our people under the Gold Dome spend a lot of time passing resolutions to make us feel good. We support this, we support that. This is something that just reinforces the parents. Now, the idea is, does this add an extra layer of regulation? No, not in my opinion, because in my opinion, this should be the prescribed course of action to ask the parents about a DNR in every situation. I can't imagine that this rule does not exist at any other healthcare institution in the entire state. However, if it's not outlined by Colorado law, does it mean that something like this could happen? And yes, it does. So I push back a lot on some of the housing defect and those rules and regulations that we have that makes it very difficult in order to build affordable housing. But this is not adding an extra layer of process or procedure. This, to me, protects parents' rights, and I don't think it even changes a single form or shouldn't change a single form at any medical institution. You just have to verify that on a DNR, you have the parent signing off on it, which seems to be reasonable practice by most medical institutions right now. So this just codifies it. For me,
and
not
if the
a big deal.
like, let's say the doctors and the parents disagree.
Yeah.
Okay, so that happens.
Yep,
right?
does happen.
The doctor in this case goes, look, you're spending a lot. We are doing a lot to keep this baby alive.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think that we should be doing this anymore. Okay? Parents go, we disagree. We want to do this. All right. Allow the parents to take the child to a different hospital.
Yep.
It's not that complicated.
No.
I mean, to quietly do a DNR without notifying the parents just so that this baby dies because you have a disagreement with it. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean,
this thing should pass 100%.
It should. We have friends of the family who had a child that is a horrible story, and we'll get into it very long, detailed in another day when it's a better time for it. But boy was born totally normal, contracted an illness in his first year of life that basically paralyzed him. And it was a very, very, there's so few cases of it around the world. It was so unusual. There isn't a lot of study. And so they came to them and said, he's not going to live to see the age of 10. And he didn't. And they did discuss, do you want to, euthanize? Do you want to do this when he gets into these situations? Do you want a DNR when he goes into this cardiac arrest, when he has problems breathing? I mean, he was intubated his entire life. He never, ever walked on his own. It was a medical bay at home is what they had to provide, and they did because it's their son.
Yeah. Wow. Well, quality healthcare matters.
Yes, and the parent's choice matters.
Yep.
It does.
Yep.
And here, I want to talk to everybody about a different choice, but a great choice that you have for your own health care that has just started here in Colorado. Wound Care Associates of Colorado, brand new advertiser to the show. We're really excited that they're on board. Jennifer Walker started Wound Care Associates of Colorado because of a negative medical outcome that took the life of her uncle. Okay, this seems strange, but Uncle had diabetes, he had neuropathy, he had some other comorbidities, developed a small cut on his toe. And I mean small, like half the size of one of your fingers, if not smaller, tiny. He had a lot of other things he's dealing with. It's a small cut. Yeah, it's going to heal eventually. You know how it is. You've had those cuts, those scrapes that have taken a little bit longer to heal than when you were little. Well, unfortunately, that torn skin tissue is the perfect place for dirt, germs, and bacteria to get access to your body. Well, unfortunately, with Jennifer Walker, her uncle's cut was exactly that highway. The dirt, germs, and bacteria got inside and started an infection. By the time her uncle sought medical care, the infection was full-blown. They actually amputated part of his foot in order to stem the tide. Didn't work. Several days later, he passed because the infection had gotten a hold inside his body from a tiny little cut that wasn't dealt with in the right amount of time. That's why you've got to reach out to Colorado with Wound Care Associates of Colorado, coloradowound.com. Reach out to them at coloradowound.com. This is what makes Wound Care Associates of Colorado so much different than everybody else out there. If you, someone in your family, is dealing with a pressure sore, a diabetic ulcer, a slow-healing cut, or a wound, this is what they do. They go old school. They come to your home. You get the treatment you need in the privacy, comfort, and care of your home. That's crazy that they're able to do that and offer that to you in this day and age. No one does that. And better yet, they are going to maximize the healing that is going on. They are going to make sure they are promoting faster healing. They want to fix the wound because of the experience that Jennifer Walker had. They don't want to maintain the wound, which is what happened with my aunt, and we've talked about that before, and how MRSA got into her body because they were just maintaining the wound, not trying to make it heal, just keeping it open and cleaning it, because that seems okay. No, that's not okay. And it exposed my aunt to MRSA, and there were other negative complications because of that. So that's the difference with Wound Care Associates of Colorado. Wound Care Associates of Colorado will give you the comfort, convenience, and treatment in the privacy of your own home. It is a personalized treatment plan. Their wound-certified nurse can change orders. She can provide all the medical care you need, and she does it at home. No more worrying about transportation. No getting worried about getting exposed to any dirt, germs, and bacteria at the wound care center or any other doctor's office. It's in your own home. And they promote faster healing outcomes. They want to make sure that wound is fixed, not that it's still open so that all the dirt, germs, and bacteria can still get access to your body because of what happened to Jennifer. Contact them today. ColoradoWound.com. ColoradoWound.com. Don't wait. Just like the story that I have with my aunt and with Jennifer's uncle. Waiting can mean long stays in the hospital and some real negative outcomes. Take care of yourself and your family. Reach out to the Wound Care Associates of Colorado, ColoradoWound.com, ColoradoWound.com. And when you do, tell me you heard about him here on the Jeff and Bill Show. We'll be back right after this. This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710, KNUS.
All right, coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, Bill, you'll never guess how much the city of Denver is allocating to defending Mayor Mike Johnston and his hearing later this week.
Oh, boy. This is interesting because I want to know why he feels the need to have to lawyer up so much, because if you're in the right and you're doing, I'm curious about this one. I'm real curious. And also who they hired too. What firm did they hire? How much are they paying?
Who is it
what
defending?
Are they scared of?
Not only are they spending millions of dollars on illegal immigrants, they're spending millions of dollars to defend the millions they're spending on illegal immigrants.
Oh, God. And the other part is, the other thing is, you're talking about them going to get an outside law firm.
Yes.
To help. So,
bringing in the big guns.
Huh. So just as we're, wrapping up this hour, the one thing that I want our listeners to think about between now and when we resume this conversation the next hour is, what does that say about our current legal representation? That the Attorney General wouldn't have the ability, the knowledge, or the staff to prep the mayor? Huh. Who are you hiring as your legal help?
Good point.
Why do you have to go outside?
So,
I need the contractors.
Mayor Mikey Johnston before Congress on Wednesday. We're going to be live in the room for that. A lot to talk about. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is 710 KNUS.
It is 9 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Monday, March 3rd, 2025. Good morning, Denver, Colorado. You've tuned into the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710 KNUS. I'm your co-host, Jeff Hunt, along with Bill Thorpe, bringing you the freshest insights and hottest takes from the right, left, and center. Congratulations. You just woke up in the greatest country in history. Donald Trump's your president. You're heading to work. You're a doer out there. That's why we love you. You're making this country great again. Supporting your family, building a business, building our roads, making it happen. Y'all are great. So let's kick it off and have a great hour of discussion about what's happening in the city of Denver. Want to get to the phone lines, want to get to the text messages. A few breaking news items coming here. Kroger chairman and CEO resigns following an investigation into personal conduct. Kroger chairman and CEO Rodney McMullen stepping down after an internal investigation into his personal conduct. Wah, wah.
Insert your own self-checkout joke here.
The company said Monday that the investigation into McMullen's personal conduct was unrelated to the business, but was found to be inconsistent with Kroger's business ethics policy. Board member Ronald Sargent will serve as chairman and interim CEO effective immediately. Interesting.
That's interesting.
Well, this is the headline I want to talk this hour about. Denver City Council approves a $2 million contract with a law firm that will represent the city during a congressional inquiry. Please, no. Mayor Mike Johnston.
You're not getting to truth. Get behind me, Satan. Yes.
Mayor Mike Johnston is heading to Washington, D.C. this week, along with the mayors of Boston, Chicago, and New York City, to testify before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. Is this going to be kind of one of those incidents where the presidents of Harvard, Yale go before and becomes total disasters? Well, in order to prevent it from becoming a disaster for Mayor Mike Johnson, he's already a disaster in my book, but to prevent him from possibly losing his job, he's spending $2 million on a law firm to help him defend the decisions they've made to become a sanctuary city.
Wow. So
not only did we spend hundreds of millions of dollars to welcome illegal immigrants to the city of Denver, we're now spending $2 million to defend, and they want to raise your taxes. They want to implement a 20% surcharge on all bills, on all restaurant tabs down the city of Denver, because they're running out of money. Because where is it? Being spent on illegal immigrants. And why we continue to elect these dopes, I don't get it. That's what we're going to talk about. We're going to dive into that. Would love to hear from you. Phone lines are open, 303-696-1971, or text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115, 720-819-5115. Mayor Mikey Johnston heading to D.C. this week. Would love to hear your thoughts about this. What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to be a disaster? Is it going to stand for compassion? Oh, goodness. Join the conversation. Now it's Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jeff and Billy. 57 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 62 today. It's going to be a beautiful day before we may see a little snow south of the metro area and in the mountains coming up tonight. The 7-10 5-day forecast is just ahead. Our top story, a shooting early this morning involving deputies in Fort Collins. It involved a traffic stop, a female and a male suspect. The sheriff's department says the male suspect is in custody, suffered serious injuries in the shooting as the investigation is underway.
Feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because
I'm
you're in no
answering on
position
this
to
question.
dictate that.
That's
Remember
exactly
this.
what I'm not
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
Ukrainian President Zelensky says there will be diplomacy for peace after he had a tense exchange of words with DJT last week. I mean, bottom line, let's be honest here. DJT just destroyed him there, laid down the hammer. In a video posted on his website, Zelensky said that they are grateful for all support the U.S. has given Ukraine in its war against Russia. He added there is clear support for his country's cause from Europe, and everyone agrees there needs to be peace.
Blake, the more I think about it, and they're always like, "Oh, you're siding with Russia. Trump's siding with Russia." Okay, so if you're Zelensky and you show up there, all you want to get out of that is showing the world that America stands with you. Right?
Exactly.
Like that's all you want to get out of it. You want to have these debates, do it behind scenes. But if I'm Zelensky, I want to walk up there and go, "Oh, DJT, you're the best, man. Yeah. JD Vance, high five. Look at it. We together, we're going to win this thing. We're going to get to peace. I got America right by my side. Thanks, everybody.
Right.
We'll see you next time."
Exactly. And then the Ukrainian support goes up, you would think, because he's at about 6 or 4% or something, even though they say it's like 60%. It's not. They want to vote him out.
We've all had those moments where you get in a fight with a family member, and then you get out of the car, and you got to, or you get in a fight on the way to church, and you got to get out of the car and walk into church looking okay. Everything's nice. You can all do it. We can all do it. Zelensky can walk in there and go, "We are 100% together. We are taking it. We're getting peace. We're going to win. Thank you, everybody. Good night."
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Throw a tie on and go in there.
The more I think he couldn't do that, and the fact that Ukraine itself won't even reaffirm, right? You saw that vote like a week ago?
Right.
That Parliament wouldn't even do a little resolution to support him. He's the wrong guy, man.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, they skipped an election for a reason so he could stay in power. That's why he did it.
Totally.
And he got to have it again. Hey, did you see this, Jeff? Over the weekend, Ukrainian officials released the kickback numbers that they gave U.S. politicians.
Oh, no.
Joe Biden, $92 million. Mitch McConnell, $89 million. Nancy Pelosi, $86 million. Schumer, $66 million. Lindsey Graham, $82 million. This is sickening. Your boy, freaking the fraud Romney, $71 million.
I gotta see that. I have not seen that.
Cornyn, Crenshaw. Half of them are Dems, half of them are Republicans.
That's been fact checked. That's old information. It's not true.
It is old, so they didn't.
Nope, not at all. None of that's true. Okay. It's something that's been making its rounds on social media for several months. It's been fact checked.
I just saw this.
None of it's true. None of those numbers are true.
So I would say it's a quarter of that.
No, not even. None of it's true. The whole idea is just wipe it off. None of it's true. Not a single. None of that's true.
So it says Crenshaw received $20 million. So I'm going to say he received $5 million. How about that?
Nope. Yeah. How about zero? Until you can prove that it happened. You can't sit there, because the idea is these numbers in this social media post is completely and totally false. So you don't then say, I'm going to assume some of the false. You have to you need to assume that it happens. Yeah,
if we can find out that it happens,
tape right now.
Absolutely. If we find out it happens, absolutely, and we can criticize them for it.
Lunch,
but I saw this.
I'll buy you lunch.
I saw this thing a month ago.
Okay, I take it back. Liz Cheney is on the up and up. I love.
Oh no, I'm not talking about people being on the up and up. I'm just saying that the allegation that these individuals received millions and millions of dollars of kickbacks from Ukraine based on the support that we got, so that has not been proven and has actually been proven false. None of that happened. We can talk about them taking dirty money or being in the tank for a whole bunch of other things. I'm not saying that all of them are pure as the driven snow. I'm just saying those numbers, that list, is not factually accurate. That's it.
Okay.
And we can do what we want. We can say there may be other under the table kickbacks or anything else. Yeah. And so, it's just not true. That's okay.
Okay, good. No, I love it. There's still time. Run the bums out. After 2,000 soldiers are headed to Fort Carson, U.S. Getting ready for them to help in the immigration crackdown. The soldiers will assist with logistics support detection, monitoring, and administrative support, among other things. Tariffs on Mexico and Canada go into effect tomorrow. 47 said illegal drugs continue to pour across the border in what he called very high and unacceptable levels, despite pledges from both neighbors to boost security. Elon on Rogan over the weekend.
Why is the Democrat propaganda machine so fired up to destroy me? The main reason is that entitlements fraud, that includes like Social Security, disability, Medicaid, entitlements fraud for illegal aliens is what is serving as a gigantic magnetic force to pull people in from all around the world and keep them here. If you pay people at a standard of living that is above 90% of Earth, then you have a very powerful incentive for 90% of Earth to come here and to stay here. But if you end the illegal alien fraud, then you turn off that magnet and they leave. And if that happens, they will lose a massive number of Democratic
voters. Let's see. A massive search continues for a missing 2-year-old boy in Oregon. Local authorities say Dane Paulson was seen playing in the yard of a residence on Saturday afternoon around about 130 miles southwest of Portland. They don't believe the boy's disappearance was criminal. Update on the economy with Scott Bessent.
It took 4 years to get us here. President Trump's been in office 5 weeks, and I can tell you we're working every day. What I will point out, interest rates, the 10-year bond, which I am focused on, have been down every week since President Trump was president. Mortgage rates have been down every week, so that's a pretty good start.
53 in Englewood, 54 in Broomfield, 57 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue.
And he just couldn't do it. And sometimes these guys, when they put on the military uniform, they have trouble taking it off. He needs to take off the military garb, put on the garb of diplomacy, and understand that he's got an honest new broker on the field who can actually help him end this war, maintain his sovereignty, maintain prosperity for the Ukrainians.
And that's eventually what happened this morning. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
After a beautiful spring-like weekend in Denver, the weather pendulum going to swing the other way now. It is March, so we know that these wild swings will happen. Temperatures will be reaching the low 60s today with a chance of rain showers developing come late afternoon and evening, then rain and snow turning to snow showers tonight. Windy and much colder, lows lower 30s, strong northwest winds. Snow showers Tuesday, mainly early in the day, highs 30s and low 40s and very windy. Could see some light accumulations of snow tonight and tomorrow. Lows tomorrow night 20s, rebounding temperatures Wednesday, another storm system arriving Thursday and Friday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
It's a big week we'll be providing live broadcast and comment on it, so you're not going to want to miss the conversation. You can tune in to 710 KNUS for the State of the Union, which will be tomorrow. Online, we'll be providing some commentary. Go get some friends.
Got a
We'll
question.
hang out.
Got a question on that one before we get to the main topic. Now, over the course of, I would say, the last 8 years, a little bit more, the party that is out of power seems to take moments to make a spectacle of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And that's both.
You lie!
Yeah. And Democrats and Republicans. Yeah, we had people, unfolding blankets and yelling things. And
They're
so
all dressed
both
in
sides,
white
yeah.
one time,
And Nancy Pelosi ripping up the script and so things like that. And so do you think there is going to be any of that during the State of the Union?
100%.
Oh, okay. Now, if so, what do you think it's going to be? Will it just be people yelling
Well,
something?
you can't rip up a script because there's no power anymore. So they'll yell some stuff.
Yeah.
They may dress in blue and yellow to look like Ukraine. I bet that'll be your thing.
That could be.
There'll be like a soccer match where they'll make up the little
only
blue.
Only if they did this though. Only if they did it smartly enough so that like they have a section of blue and then a section of yellow. Yeah,
right.
That's the only way it works. If they do it, if they do it right, then okay. Then I can. Then I can get to that one. Okay.
So funny story.
Yeah.
The guy who yelled "You lie," Joe something. He's from South Carolina. I think he's still a member of Congress.
Oh.
So I was, at the time, representing an organization that serves persecuted Christians all over the world.
Yeah.
And I was like their DC consultant type of guy at the time. So I was setting up meetings, and we go up and would have Hill days and go meet with like 5 different members of Congress, that type of thing. So we had set up the meeting ahead of time with that guy the morning after that happened. Like, we were the dude's first meeting that morning.
Oh,
okay?
that's fantastic.
And if you remember, that wasn't too common. And he gets up there. It was Obama giving the State of the Union, and he yells, "You lie!" And the whole world pearl clutched.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, can you believe what he did? It broke decorum. Barack Obama's the best president ever. All that stuff. So there was like panic all over the media about how terrible he was and all this stuff. And lo and behold, we're like the first meeting the next morning with
fantastic.
the dude. So first of all, his mind's not even on the meeting. His staff's there, and we're kind of talking him through. And I had built this international scorecard on religious freedom, and so we need him to step up and support us and all that, so he gets a good grade on the international religious freedom scorecard, all that. His mind's not even there. But he was very eager to get a picture with us.
Oh, that's
so
great.
What clicked in his mind, you can tell, was he was like trying to overcompensate for what happened yesterday. I'm a really good guy. No. I'm a really good guy, man.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
let's
not
get
just
some
the guy that's saying
pictures.
this,
I want
yeah.
to show you around the office.
Oh, that's great.
All that stuff. Let's get some more pictures over here. You guys want a picture? Let's just sit behind the desk, get a picture. All that stuff. It was hilarious. It was one of those
fantastic.
like Forrest Gump moments that you just stumble into.
Oh, that's
you
wonderful.
No idea
The
doing.
next morning you've got that meeting.
Morning
Holy
after.
crap, that is
So,
fantastic.
We'll be live in D.C. tomorrow and Wednesday, broadcasting from D.C., and then we'll carry and do some live broadcast of the State of the Union. So you can tune into 710 KNUS on YouTube, X. I'll get some friends. We'll see which conservative lawmakers can join us, and we'll do like the Mystery Science
That'll be
Theater
fun.
3000
Yeah.
type thing. It'll be a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
you're not going to want to miss that. All right, so speaking of that, and by the way, tomorrow the State of the Union's at 7 o'clock p.m.
Yeah, 7 p.m.
7 p.m. All right. And you know what also always happens in my mind on the State of the Union? Do you
what?
remember the movie Dave?
Yeah.
We watched that with the kids the other day. I actually really like that movie.
That's a
I watched
great
that as a
movie.
kid, and it
Yeah.
was one of my favorite movies.
really
When he's
good.
like, you got to cut from the budget if you want to fund your little program. So he brings in his friend who's an accountant.
Yeah. Just his friend, his buddy.
They find the money to do it and all that stuff. But then the collapse that happens and how they get him back out, and he becomes the regular
Yeah.
guy. And then the first lady shows up, and they fall in love again.
Oh,
I always thought
fantastic.
that movie was a lot of
Oh,
fun.
that was a great movie.
All right, so Denver City Council approves $2 million contract with law firm that will represent the city of Denver during the congressional inquiry that's happening on Wednesday. So on Wednesday, the mayors of Denver, that's Mayor Mike Johnston, Boston, Chicago, and New York City, have been invited is a nice word, almost compelled, to testify before the House Oversight and Government Reform Committees. Okay? Denver Mike Johnson has agreed. He's going to be there on Wednesday. We will be in the room. We got special media access. I don't think anybody else in Colorado has this. I don't think anybody else does. I think it's just us, okay? And we're going to carry parts of the testimony that morning, so you're not going to want to miss it. This is all Wednesday, okay? On Tuesday of last week, the Denver City Council hired Washington, D.C.-based law firm Covington and Burling. They're big ones. They're like right up there with Brownstein, okay? The contract is for legal services rendered from February 1st through January 31st of 2026, so the entire next year, okay? According to the contract, the city has agreed to pay up to $2 million for services. A letter from Covington Burling LLP to the city outlines the law firm's blended all-attorney rate of $1,000 for all partners. I think that's an hour.
We are in the wrong business.
Counsel and associates, as well as $595 blended rate for all professional staff. That's just the staff, Bill. The law firm has agreed to not charge the city for the first 50 hours of partner time.
Oh, how nice.
You ever had an attorney?
Not really. I mean, tangentially, yes, but not like that.
Yeah, when I ran my business, we had an attorney over at some of these big firms on, and so you get billed in 15-minute increments.
Yeah,
right?
you do. Yeah.
So Chris Murray was my attorney. I love Chris. Chris guy, great friend. And I would call Chris and talk to him very, very quickly. Hey, Chris, we got a brand new car. I need this contract.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Thank you very
Like
much.
the Micro Machines guy.
Exactly. Keep it down. 15. Keep it down. All right, the letter states that both parties mutually agree that investigative activity is likely to continue following this hearing. If that activity results in fees that exceed $2 million, the city must submit a request for additional funding to the city council promptly with a request for an expedited approval process. The firm's performance of any such additional work shall be in reliance on a good faith expectation that any such approval will be in effect. The letter continues. Now listen, this is the lead attorney. This lady is interesting. Dana Remus is her name. Will serve as lead attorney in the matter according to city documents. Before joining Covington and Burling, she served as assistant to the president and White House counsel for former President Joe Biden. She previously acted as general counsel for the Biden-Harris presidential campaign, as well as deputy assistant to the president and deputy counsel for ethics to the Obama administration. $2 million going from the city of Denver taxpayers to a White House Joe Biden, Barack Obama attorney hack. It's so good to be a Democrat. They get so much money that flows from them.
See, the thing for me is that if I'm a Colorado attorney, if I work for the city of Denver, the mayor and the handlers around him just say, you suck. You're really bad at your job. We couldn't find anybody with the legal knowledge or ability here in the state of Colorado. All of the talented lawyers and attorneys, all the connections that we have, couldn't possibly find anybody that could give us good, solid advice here in our state. Couldn't find anybody that could charge us less than $2 million to prep Mayor Mike before he goes in front of Congress. And big question I have on that one is if Mayor Mike thinks that his legal footing with sanctuary cities is so strong, well, why do we need the big high-priced lawyers? I mean, I want to just for a second. I talk about we've talked about things like the Dominion lawsuits, and we've talked about Fox News and things. And one of the things that I bring to the table is in defamation law. This is not what we're talking about here, but in defamation law, truth being an absolute defense, saying that if you have pictures, if you say that, and again, this is just for the sake of the discussion today, that Denver Mayor Mike Johnson is actively involved in a criminal organization to bring illegals here, and he's the guy running TDA, and he's the one that set them up at the apartment buildings. If you have pictures and meetings and notes and audio recordings, you walk in on day one of court in the very first preliminary hearing and put your proof out on the table. That takes no legal representation or ability because you have truth on your side. If the position that Mayor Mike Johnston is in is so righteous and so correct, I don't see him needing a lot of legal representation. Should he walk in there with none? No, he absolutely should have conversations about what can and can't be asked and where his legal exposure is. But I find a hard time figuring how that costs $2 million. Yeah. I mean, couldn't we just chat GPT this bugger and just see what we get? I mean, I'm just saying that might be the first. Just seriously, $2 million in taxpayer funds.
Here's what I want to remind everybody. Yeah. According to the Common Sense Institute, right, our friends over there, the city of Denver has already spent $356 million, roughly $7,900 per migrant since the illegal immigration crisis took place. Okay, so we've already spent $356 million, and we know that money has come out of funds for other things. They've cut police funding. They've cut down on like
parks, open spaces, libraries,
all that stuff. So they've already cut that down.
Yeah.
Then, because all the restaurants are closing, they're having this big funding problem there. So his idea last week was we're going to add a $20 surcharge.
Yeah. So again, again, the brilliance of the Denver mayor's office is, people aren't coming downtown to spend money at the restaurants. Aha!
Tax 'em.
I know the solution. Make it more expensive. Obviously, the decision is it's just too cheap to come downtown. We're making it more expensive. We'll draw everybody. Morons.
So, on top of all that, rather than going, guys, what we should do is reevaluate our policies because we're in a financial ditch right now. So let's try to figure this out. No. We're going to take $2 million from an already weakened budget, weakened city, cuts everywhere, and use that to defend ourselves and our policies even more. And I want to remind you all, we said this months ago, almost a year ago now, that there was going to be a big bet taking place on which city is better. The city of Aurora, which is going tough on crime, tough on homelessness, tough on illegal immigration, at least trying to. Danielle Jurinsky was the one that raised the alarm on TDA and all that stuff. Trying to be tough there and prioritize their people first. They said, we're not going to spend a dime on illegal immigration. Our services are for our citizens. Meanwhile, you have the city of Denver that's going to put illegal immigrants first, literally putting them ahead of their own people, their citizens. And now again, the mayor saying, I'm going to spend $2 million to defend our positions against Trump, against the federal government, so we can continue to provide for illegal immigrants. That's what you're seeing right now. That's what the testimony is going to be on Wednesday before Congress.
Here's the crazy thing, Jeff. Friend of the show, George Brockler, has been kind of an adjunct professor over at DU College of Law for a while. He couldn't offer up some of his students and just say, go talk to the mayor about. That's the idea is that there are so many resources that I see available to us.
Got to bring in the big guns, apparently.
Rather than going outside of the state to pay $2 million to this law firm. Because, again, even if I don't think it's worth $2 million. Even if it was, and they were spending it internally on lawyers that pay rent and live here, that are going to go to our restaurants, that are going to pay childcare here in our communities, they're going to buy gas from our gas stations, that at least you can make some sort of an argument for. But he's pulling a Phil Weiser and go get people outside of the state to make legal representation. What the hell's going on here?
Great point, Bill. All right, let's go to the phone lines there. Jam-packed. Brendan, Castle Rock, you've been very patient. Thank you. Good morning, Brendan. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Good morning.
What do you think of all this?
I mean, I just think it's absolutely ridiculous that on top of $350+ million, you got the mayor of Denver going over to D.C. and spending $2 million just when he's going to get embarrassed in front of Congress and the entire nation. I mean, I've been in D.C. working as an intern. I've seen how these House committee hearings go, and the people that end up testifying get torn apart.
What do you think is going to happen tomorrow? Do you think that the Democrats are going to try to or not tomorrow, but Wednesday, these progressive mayors, that they're being compassionate, that they're being what America should stand for, caring for the immigrant? And then how do you think Republicans are going to respond?
I mean, Republicans are going to see right through the bull crap that they're only funding all of these migrant efforts just to get more votes. They don't care about illegal immigrants. If they did, they'd try to make the immigration process easier, but they won't. Instead, they just want to keep on wasting money, bringing in illegal immigrants, keeping the border open, and end up putting more American lives at risk. I mean, the city of Denver, how big of a homeless problem is there? It feels like we're spending more money trying to shelter illegal migrants than we are trying to address the homeless problem that is ravaging our state.
Well, and to that point, and I've pointed this out, that Denver's income, half of its revenue comes from sales tax. So if people don't go to the city of Denver, you can't put together the budget necessary to pursue your progressive ideas. So let's say you really do care a lot about the homeless, or you really do care a lot about illegal immigrants. You've been so bad managing the city that people don't want to go there. Therefore, you're not even bringing in the revenue necessary to fund the progressive programs you want. Safety has to be top. It has to be number one. Mayor Mike Johnson's never made that his top issue. It's always about delivering for progressive special interest groups. And I think Wednesday's going to be a catastrophe for him, but we'll have to see. Brendan, great call. Thanks so much for your time.
Brendan, thank you so much. I got something, just call her off the air.
Yeah.
Did a little bit of math, and I appreciate that because I get to math. I'm really bad at it. And I appreciate this. This caller said, okay, let's say we have this $2 million cap, and Denver spends $2 million prepping Mayor Mike Johnston to do this. Now, you cited the idea we think it's $1,000 an hour is what we're thinking as far as billing. So, nice enough. The caller said, well, $1,000 an hour, that would be 2,000 hours of work. Based on a 40-hour work week, that is 50 weeks of work.
Yeah, it's about a year.
It's, again, pardon me? It's taken them a year?
Well, they have it from now February, and it's not just this meeting, but all the way through the next year, through January 2026.
I know. So the idea is that based on our taxes, Mayor Mike Johnston has got 50 weeks of this high-priced lawyer on retainer based on defending Sanctuary City. Money that's not going to be spent in Colorado, money that's not going to Colorado lawyers, and a decision in which the Denver mayor has decided that nobody in Colorado possesses the intellectual capacity or ability to help him out of this pinch. 50 weeks of billable hours to this law firm, nearly an entire year. It's ridiculous. Thank you, caller.
6135 pointing out all Mike Johnson's going to do, he's going to go to the, quote, scolding rim, then he's going to walk out, go to a nice hotel room, enjoy a nice restaurant, go out sightsee, and then come back to Denver as if nothing ever happened. 6135, great text message. That's exactly what's going to happen. Well, let me tell you about a good investment. We're talking about bad investments the city's making. Here's some good investments, okay? Let's talk about your hair. If you're losing it and desire to have it back, then Advanced Hair Restoration has the easiest guaranteed solution. Their simple one-day treatment offers life-changing results, and I've seen it with my own eyes. Guys, it's not magic, but close to it. They put your hair where you need it the most, and bam, it grows. It's actually science. Advanced Hair has it all. Top-rated Dr. Tanya Paul's modern technology. Best of all, your very own natural hair begins to regrow the very next day. Advanced Hair even guarantees it to grow for life. Look, you watched the Oscars yesterday. Every single one of those guys over the age of 40 has had their hair done. They just do. It falls out as you get older. And so if you want that youthfulness back, you got to get your hair done. And believe me, I've had guys in my family do it. Most of the guys in my family have done it, and it changed their lives. It brought back youthfulness in business, in romance, in personal relationships, all of it. It really did change things. So Advanced Hair guarantees it will grow for life. So schedule your free consultation now, 720-459-HAIR. If you qualify, you'll get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. Advanced Hair is the winner of Westward's Best of Denver and has changed the lives of tens of thousands of people. So don't wait. Check out the before and afters online for yourself, 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, or advancedhair.com. That's advancedhair.com. All right, we'll continue. Phone lines nearly totally full. Gary, Frank, we'll get to you. We do have one open line. Join the conversation about Mikey Johnston and the $2 million he's spending just to defend Denver's sanctuary city policies against the federal government. And that's just for the next year. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
At this hour, I'm Christina Owayo in Dallas, and here are your top stories. President Donald Trump is celebrating the historic low border crossings during the first full month he's been in office, saying apprehensions at the southern border are at a record-setting low. According to the latest data from Customs and Border Protection, only 8,326 illegal migrants were apprehended by Border Patrol last month, representing a 96% drop from illegal crossings during the Biden administration, when highs in December of 2023 were at more than 301,000 encounters. To put things into perspective, during the Biden-Harris administration, 8,000 to 10,000 migrants would cross in a single day, with a high of 11,000 illegal migrants crossing in December of 2023. Trump saying on social media that this means very few people came. The invasion of our country is over, he said. In comparison, under Joe Biden, there were 300,000 illegal crossings in 1 month, and virtually all of them were released into our country. Thanks to the Trump administration policies, the border is closed to all illegal migrants. President Donald Trump essentially closing the border with executive orders issued when he took office, including declaring the southern border a national emergency, reenacting the Remain in Mexico policy, and putting an end to welfare benefits for illegals. The Department of Education is offering its employees up to $25,000 if they quit, retire, or resign by today, according to an internal memo. The offer comes as President Donald Trump has directed all federal agency heads to drastically reduce the size of their workforce. The voluntary separation incentive payment is a one-time offer/payment to those who accept it before the department starts reducing the size of its workforce on March 31st. Education Department employees received an email offering the buyouts ahead of the, quote, very significant layoffs. The email urged workers to consider the one-time offer of up to that $25,000 if they completed an application to retire or resign by today. And the latest developments on Pope Francis, as the Vatican says the Pope has remained in stable condition and didn't need any mechanical ventilation over the weekend. It's a sign that his respiratory function was improving as he continues his recovery from double pneumonia and respiratory crisis. The 88-year-old Pope continues to receive high-flow supplemental oxygen after Friday's coughing episode, which sparked fears of a new infection. Doctors again said his prognosis remained guarded, meaning he isn't out of danger just yet. Francis, who had a visit from the Vatican No. 2 and 3 official, also attended Mass, rested, and prayed, the Vatican said in its bulletin. Crowds of people lined the streets over the weekend near a Vermont ski resort protesting Vice President J.D. Vance the day after an Oval Office blowout over Ukraine. Vance was in the area to vacation with his family.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show. We're talking all things Mike Johnston, the testimony that's going to take place on Wednesday. He's spending $2 million just to defend Denver's sanctuary city policies against Donald Trump and his efforts for mass deportations. What do you think of all this? Let's go to Frank in Denver. Good morning, Frank. You're on the Jeff and Bill Show.
Morning.
Morning, guys. You don't quite get it. Michael Johnson is about to enter the rarefied air of Washington, D.C. law. He's going to be in front of the cameras, in the crucible, open to questions by everybody. If you want to read a good book about this, if he makes a mistake and says something stupid, he's going to be defending it, and the whole Democratic House of Cards of illegal immigrants coming in and doing all they do could be at risk. There's a great book about it called The Man to See by Evan Thomas. The Man to See by Evan Thomas. This is about legendary trial lawyer Edward Bennett Williams. He was charging $1,000 an hour in 1955 to defend guys like Joe McCarthy, Jimmy Hoffa, John McCain. It's a totally different world. It depends on their connections, who these people know, and what strings to pull, not just what to say. But Michael has to be very careful when he goes in there, and it should be interesting to watch.
You know, Frank, I think you're right, Frank, because in part I also think this allows Mike Johnston the next step to get him to the next level of celebrity as far as politics.
The next step to disaster.
Exactly. And because if he does well here, then of course MSNBC and CNN and the like are going to be calling, and he's going to get a shot at doing one of those Sunday, mainstream shows, things like that. And the other thing is, what do you think about this, Frank? If, and I think you're 110% correct about being worried that Mayor Mike will step in it or somehow step on an unintended landmine, but from your perspective, how strong does it mean Mayor Mike's position is on the sanctuary city if he needs $1,000 an hour law firm to tell him what he can and can't say? How strong do you think his position is to start with?
Well, this is what I was saying, Bill. I mean, I think Michael Johnson is a well-intentioned person, but he's just representing a party with flawed ideas, and I think their time has come that they're no longer right for this country because of the deceptive practices of the Democrats trying to make all these people come in to change the vote, like Elon Musk said, to change this country forever. And I think it's wrong and evil for the country. So I think that Michael is just, in some ways, a bit of a dupe for the Democratic Party to say what they want based on his intentions to become governor or whatever. But I think he's being used, and that's unfortunate. I mean, it's going to come down to the truth of the matter. And this guy, again, like I say, in 1955 and 60, he was prepping and counseling people who had to go before Congress to be careful of what they said and did not say. And so that's the whole thing. And some of these whipshot, Republican young lawyers, they're pretty sharp. They'll ask anything. So it just depends. It should be a show.
Yeah, it should be. It's going to be a show, Frank, and I appreciate the phone call. I think you're right. The only part I might disagree with is some on the immigration side of things, because I think I believe the assumption that all the immigrants, either legal or illegal or asylum seekers, will automatically be Democrats, I think assumes that Democrats are that persuasive, when I think the Republicans can make a very, very, very persuasive argument. And if the Republicans are shedding members in the party like we see they are, this is a great opportunity to grow. And I think we saw some of that with Trump, with some of the inroads that he made with minorities that I didn't think he was going to be able to. So I think maybe don't give up the ghost on the immigrants until then. But Frank, thanks for the call. Gary in Denver, we're going to go to you now before we take our next break. Welcome to the Jeff and Bill Show. What's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Jeff and Bill. One thing whenever we're talking about the city and county of Denver and how they spend their numbers or their budget, we need to remember that the city and county of Denver is $60 million in debt this year. They're spending $60 million more than they collect in revenue.
Wow.
And as far as
$60 million. I knew they were out of money, but I thought they had to balance their budget.
No, they dipped into their reserve, and that's 60 million out of 1.7 billion, so it's about 4%. But they're required to replenish the reserve.
Yeah.
So they're sweating bullets. How they're going to come up with this number, and they're doing stupid things like banning flavored vapes, where they won't
Zin
collect
and stuff like that. Unbelievable.
And that was bringing in 13 million. So now they're $73 million in debt. Anyway, I think these lawyers are going to do two things for Johnson, and it is going to be over 8 or 9, 10 months. One, they're going to talk to the Democrats that'll be questioning him and asking them to ask him softball questions that he can hit out of the park. And then secondly, Trump is going to punish Denver by holding back funding, any kind of funding he can, because we are a sanctuary city. And I think these lawyers are going to try to mitigate that effect.
That's exactly what's going to happen. It's about funding that's going to be coming and how dependent the city of Denver is on it, and how can they still get it while maintaining their commitment to the illegal immigrants. Gary, fantastic call. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. We'll continue. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
anti-Trump protest.
Uh-oh, where? When?
But it's tomorrow.
Oh. You're not going to be there.
And there's going to be a blizzard.
Oh, jeez.
Good luck. Good luck, guys. You know what's interesting about these protests I've noticed is that they're mostly older people, like 60 plus. And Charlie Kirk was pointing out that Trump has higher approval ratings in the 18 to 39 demographic than the 60 plus demographic.
Which is really weird when you think about it.
Weird.
Because that 60 plus used to be the purview of Republicans.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's really strange.
Believe me, when I host the Western Conservative Summit, all my friends
were
in their 60s and older.
Yes, exactly. And so that is very weird. I'd be curious about, and if it is, that older demographic that's coming out to protest Trump, what does the weather do? Because they're not coming out in the blizzard.
Oh, man.
There's no way.
Blizzards and protests, not the best mix.
No.
But maybe you can show your deep devotion to protecting democracy by going out in the blizzard. All right, we're going to be broadcasting from D.C. for the State of the Union and Mikey Johnston's testimony.
Awesome.
You're not going to want to miss